All right, chat, welcome in. We are live. We are still in the Bay. It's still Rem and Sam NPR edition because we're in the hotel room. It doesn't sound like anybody else is around us. It did sound like after we got off the last live stream that maybe somebody was in the room on this side over here, but I don't know if anybody is over here. So we'll see. I guess we're still going to, of course, play it safe. We're a nice guy, chat, so we're going to, at least try to be respectful of the other patrons. But we can confirm that the wedding is in the books, chat. Shout out to Sam and I, of course. Another congratulations. Another, of course, incredible day to be a part of and to celebrate of course, the amazing event, and just a beautiful day for it as well. Beautiful location. It was definitely, like people were saying, it was definitely a hot day for the location, but it was still like like it wasn't like people were like drenched in sweat. We got people passing out because of the water situation. Like, everybody just kind of had like a nice little glisten to them. Just like everybody getting a little, like, kind of perfect amount of sweaty. I don't know, Chad, if it was planned that way, but just a beautiful golf course location, beautiful just ceremony, beautiful food, just great vibes afterward as well too. I don't know if Sam is, because I guess we haven't necessarily done like, the Rem and Sam biography here on the pod, but because of course, we were living in different cities for such a big part of it. I mean, obviously, especially now too, different states as well. But even in Iowa, different cities, there's a little bit of separation there where we didn't necessarily have like a, going out phase as part of it because again, it just was never not really able to consistently get together on the weekends. Then there was COVID, and then again, of course, Sam was able to get a job, get a connection out here in the Bay. But yeah, so we were never like had that like dance floor opportunity moments, and I guess of course, obviously it would have been a great time to hit the dance floor with that guy Sam, of course, but with anybody. But I'm not necessarily gonna be the life of the party dance floor type guy. We're definitely better like hanging around on the edges, just kind of vibing. If there's a couple other people on the, because at some point there's like needs to be, of course, an outside ring that kind of forms around the dance, and then you get people. I mean, we all know how it works, yeah. Hey, yo. But we're definitely committed to that extra background extra type role when it comes to the dance circle. But of course, Sam was definitely egging us on to get out there and at least try to perform some moves. So, for our guy for the special day, we were at least trying a couple of times, chat. But it is what it is. We just can't dance. So, again, we'll commit to, as time goes on, as you care less and less, we will commit, I guess, to at least trying a little bit again when the friends are pushing us that way. But it's been that, even in going back to, and obviously the college days weren't that long ago, but even going back to college, just the actual dance floor part of the night was never again like where we were gonna be shining. We're in the group. It's always a fun time because I mean, that's where the good vibes are at. Hey, yo, but for them actually pushing us into the middle of the circle and trying to get us to bust some moves, we'll do the best we did the best we could for the wedding, at least try. But we're not gonna, bury those photos, bury those videos, chat. Hey, yo, it is what it is. That's not the first time we wanted Naya to see us in person was on the dance floor, but it happens. It is what it is, chat. But yeah, it was awesome, of course. Like we were saying, A plus, definitely. I mean, hot take. Hey, yo, chat. #1 wedding. I think if we do the power rankings, I think IT said we crunched the advanced stats. They do say that it did end up being #1. So shout out. It was great vibes all the way around. So I mean, they were off as well too afterwards. We don't know what their plan is as well. We weren't asking them, I guess, what the where they're headed afterwards. But I guess they're gonna have a great time anyways. But yeah, we do have Notre Dame and Miami on in the background as well too. I mean, we're just chilling, watching some college football still as well. And everybody's asking us when we're flying back. We're like, oh, obviously we're hanging out Sunday. We're not wanting to fly back early. It's like, oh no, we gotta go live during this Miami Notre Dame game. Here we are, chat. We moved to the couch to settle in and get comfortable, and we got. Is this, well, I was gonna say the only top 10 matchup. I guess Notre Dame Texas, or Notre Dame Ohio State Texas was a top 5 matchup, but unfortunately, obviously the quarterback performances, some of the hype stuff didn't go as planned, but just the quality of the game overall, and again, the quarterbacks were a big part of that, but it still wasn't necessarily a super fun game to watch, even if it was the most anticipated. So this would be the next big matchup ranking one. Of course, maybe this one also checks sort of the entertainment boxes as well. But the quarterback for Notre Dame would be interesting to see because, again, with Arch Manning and the quarterbacks that we'll see this year as well too will be interesting because this might be like a interesting kind of reshuffling for what we get for the quarterback because it does seem like the preseason expectations for the quarterback rankings from at least an NFL draft standpoint in college that there has been a little bit of consistency of at least the year going into the draft. Most of the guys have sort of maintained their production to stay in most of their major draft range. I mean, you do have, I mean, again, like Cam Ward, number one overall pick last year. Over the course of his career, I mean, it's a great story. Was able to rise from basically, an unknown high school prospect to, again, that status of the NFL prospect. And from the preseason stuff, it looks like there's some real hype as well too. Like, hopefully, well, not hopefully for the Colts fans because again, he'll be competing against us. But for the Titans fans, obviously, hopefully he does seem like a franchise guy. But he was still preseason. I guess maybe he wasn't quite a first-round guy because Carson Beck was a first-round guy. Like, he would have been, I think, top 3 quarterbacks off the board last year, and Shador as well too. But I think it would have been, would they have been number 1 and 2? There's a third guy that would have been a consensus. Maybe we just pull up the class and see what those names were as well. And obviously Carson Beck is back, and he's in this game. Ayo, chat. Of course, now he's playing for Miami. Do we need to go into the timeline of why that Carson Beck is playing at Miami? Shout out, chat. NIL. I think it's benefiting him in a lot of ways right now. But it does, again, like the Caleb Williams piece of it. Daniels did have a bit of a rise there, but at some point, maybe it's just the fact that you kind of assume that there is going to be a quarterback push for the draft standpoint and that there is going to be some guys there's going to be a couple names picked in the first round. I know the last couple of years as well, maybe we've gone away from that where 2 of the classes over the last couple of years, haven't really had a ton of quarterbacks, but this past one in the Kenny Pickett draft. But I guess with Arch Manning being the number 1, and we could pull up the Tankathon right now as well too, because I don't know if he's updated it. Hey, shout out over. We still got this game to go for, again, the college part of it, just the big name college teams, but also they'll have draft prospects. And then we do also have North Carolina, TCU tomorrow night. So I can't believe can we get that? We might be able to get that game live on the flight. We're going to be watching Bill Belichick's coaching debut flying back. That's actually going to be great. But yeah, Arch Manning, of course, number 1, Garrett Nussmeier. Is there a Grant Nussmeier? Maybe there is, but Garrett Nussmeier is the guy for LSU right now. He is on at least the Tankathon board, the number 2 guy. They got Aller, Sellers, a bunch of quarterbacks going in the top 10 for the projected part of it going into week 1. Klubnik, 17 on the board for Clemson. Mendoza, 28, and then you have a little bit of it. So that'd be all your first round guys at this point, and then Levitt at 45 as well too. Yamialava, our guy for UCLA, he's on the board. I don't know if this will be the the highest he's ranked at this point. We'll have to see, but you get Carson Beck and Mater on here as well too. Lagway for next year in the draft, but maybe for the standing in college football as well. And he was definitely up there in the Heisman odds for sure. But the Arch Manning thing was tough as well too, and it was tough to put into comparison with what the games that he's had in the past. Because again, he's looked good, so you can this is definitely again, hopefully the worst version of Arch Manning that we're gonna get, and hopefully. Again, we can go through all the excuses, the start of it, the difficulty of it as well too. But you go back to it last year, and as much as you want to say that in the sort of maybe an old school college way, they were respecting Quinn Ewers' status as a starter, and as well, getting him at least an opportunity to be in the NFL, because you would have assumed even at that point, again, you don't know that Arch Manning's going to start week 1 like this, but you do know that you would assume that there's going to be a more consistent amount of NFL hype for him compared to Quinn Ewers. So you at least need Quinn Ewers as well for his own sake to have the opportunity to put more good tape up to just continue to raise his draft status, because that it's not just the vague draft status. Like, it's a career path. It's the guy's money opportunity, the guarantee of ability. Is that a word, Chad? Hey, the guarantee ability of a contract, the higher up that you go. So just to at least allow him, as his eligibility continues to run out, to at least have those opportunities. I get it, and he's a really talented guy. But at some point, if it was undeniable that Arch Manning was the best quarterback, then he would have just had to been in. And Texas was right there with obviously a chance to win the national championship. I don't remember if they were in the Final Four or if they were an Elite Eight loss as well too, because again, the national championship did end up being Notre Dame versus Ohio State. So, or wait, well, who was that other team that was in the national championship game? Notre Dame lost to somebody. But yeah, I mean, again, Texas was right there. They were in the conversation as the best team going into the playoff as well too. But again, Arch Manning would have had to have played if he would have just been undeniably the best guy. We saw it with two, and I guess Jalen Hurts would have been a little bit younger at that point. He would have been a sophomore. So I mean, it's not like you would have just been like, okay, well he's gonna be back next year. But there is you could have had the transfer thing. Quinn Ewers, I guess, could have transferred instead of going to the NFL. So that is definitely a possibility as well too. And again, with NIL and just the ability with transfers now, it's not like it would have been necessarily a struggle for him to find a starting job. You would have assumed, but I guess in general, he was just Arch Manning was just inaccurate in a way that it was discouraging, but it was almost discouraging the fact that it was so bad that it was like, okay, is this just him just being so nervous? And almost I feel like the moment was a little bit more overwhelming than maybe just the overall defense as well too, because early in the game, I actually turned the game off about halfway through. I was like, let me just go watch the U.S. Open. Like, Ohio State's going to win this game. It's fine. We get it. Arch Manning's playing bad. I've seen enough. But yeah, earlier in the game, like, he was just missing throws, and Sark was scheming stuff up and getting guys open. And Sark can definitely be a guy as well too, where, I mean, the early game plan versus the later game plan. I don't know if there's a little bit of a discrepancy there, but again, the early game plan was definitely getting him some opportunities. And, Sayan as well too had some moments where, again, Ohio State didn't necessarily outplay him on offense in an incredible way. I mean, at the end of the day, Texas's defense as well too showed up a little bit of talent on their end, definitely. But just the general inaccuracy and him using his legs did obviously seem like the best part of the offense, and that seemed like an extra benefit to sort of like, okay, you're going to get like a mobile Manning in a way, and maybe a little bit of a different version where he's not the full pocket passer, but you sacrifice a little bit of the pocket passing for an extra mobility, and like it works in 2025. But the throwing on the run stuff just seemed very inaccurate, and again, his ability to process over the middle was just like his ability to sit in the pocket and go through his reads. It did seem like he was taking a little bit of time, and he was walking into some sacks where, again, he even had protection for a second. So I guess, again, the long story of it is, or I guess at the end of the day, long season, he's going to have an opportunity to get better in that Texas offense, because that Texas team I still think proved to be obviously a good team for him to be playing on. But, and maybe at the end of the day, that's kind of, I don't know if that's where you want to be, but it's like, okay, if Arch Manning just plays better, then we're in a good spot. Because I think still at the end of the day, we have belief in his talent. But it is now, again, a couple of games that he's played. And it was more as well, too, he did check into that playoff game. So I know that looking back on it, Sark was definitely giving Ewers a moment to reset, because that Georgia team is that the game they ended up losing as well, too? It must have been, because, that Georgia team was definitely overwhelming him from a defensive line standpoint earlier on. But if maybe Arch Manning, again, checks into that game and kind of gets something a little bit going in momentum, then maybe they just have to stick with him in that matchup and just go with the best opportunity to win again. But, and he has probably some good stats against, some of those lower end teams, some like an earlier start in the season last year as well. But he has, again, this performance, his first start against a really tough team, but definitely his best matchup is way down there, and the other matchups that he's played in, he's been really good, but it hasn't been like a jump off the page outstanding thing. So again, he hasn't played a lot of football as well too from a college FBS standpoint, so we do have to give him the opportunity. But I guess maybe the point that I actually am getting to, because at the end of the day, I don't want it to seem like, I'm sitting here like, oh, what are we going to do with our Arch Manning stock? Ayo, chat, our Colts Manning history, like, we're just going to have Arch Manning stock at the end of the day, whatever degree it may be, it's if it goes really bad this season or over the next couple of years, like Arch Manning in the 5th round, we're like, hey, you know what? That's good value. Like maybe the Colts should be looking to take that type of guy because make no mistake, we'll still definitely need a quarterback when Arch Manning is going into the draft. It is what it is. We just always need a quarterback now. At this point, is this karma for going from Peyton Manning to Andrew Luck? The Packers got three in a, I guess maybe got three in a row. We'll still have to see with Jordan Love. It does seem like there's obviously a little bit more confidence there for him to lead a franchise going forward than, guys the Colts have brought in over the past couple of years as well too. But, they had 3 quarterbacks in a row, so at least it's not like we're breaking records from a quarterback karma standpoint. In the years as well, like, it's not like Favre and Rodgers had careers shortened because of injury. Like, they got full careers out of Favre on the Packers and Rodgers on the Packers as well too. But it's not fair, chat. Well, where's our Jordan Love? Hey, yo. And we don't want to just, like, I guess, cap our wishes for Jordan Love. I mean, shout out to Jordan Love. But, again, I guess if we could wish for a quarterback, we're still, I guess, Lamar, obviously Mahomes or Allen or whatever. But, or Arch Manning, like we're saying, and maybe even in the 5th. But I guess what I was going to say was there was, of course, a little bit of conversation as well, too, about whether or not he might even go into the NFL this year. And to me, that just didn't make sense because I thought that he was playing this perfectly to set him up to just go into the NFL, almost in that NBA type of a way where, you don't necessarily, dream of, like, I'm trying to go for the G League. But for some guys, there is a conversation, and just to any degree of being in the NBA, where, would you rather get that NBA development and the NBA paycheck as well, too, back in the day especially, compared to the coaching and the situations in the, just the day-to-day lifestyle of being a college athlete versus being a pro athlete. And I thought that maybe, again, these guys, I know the NIL thing is definitely giving them the opportunity to be, to make money in college. But at the end of the day, still being a professional athlete is better than being a college athlete playing football. It is what it is. It's not fun, Chad. At the end of the day, college is not fun. So I know maybe a top-end college athlete to some degree they can go through college in a more fun way than some of the other people going through college. It is what it is. But, and I'm not even, off the class stuff. Even sometimes the on the class stuff is what we're talking about as well too. But, just being able to focus on sports in a full way is obviously better than not. So I thought he was playing this perfectly for sitting behind Ewers a couple of years, keeping the wear and tear to a minimum. Oh, chat, did Notre Dame just turn it over on the first play of their season? Hey, yo, Miami had the ball and the Notre Dame defense got to stop and they punted. Wow. Notre Dame fresh off the national championship. Speaking of, quarterbacks getting early starts, chat, it is what it is. And again, Arch Manning's at least had the time to be in a system. Was his knee down? Hey, yo. I guess I wasn't necessarily watching the pause of the ball there, more so than his knee. Okay, maybe this ankle will be better. Oh no, I think it might be a fumble, chat. That's tough. Is that the linebacker or is that the defensive end going out to make a play on the receiver? Because that's a nasty tackle out there. Definitely a pretty vicious collision for, a little bit of a smaller creator as well too, or just, a hulk of a safety or something like that. Put him on the draft boards, chat. Hey, yo, wrap-up tackler. You love to see it in 2025. Oh, no, that's the guy that got the recovery. Okay, there's the guy that made the tackle. Number 5, Scott. Do we look him up? Is Scott on the Tankathon boards? We're going to have to watch because, again, this is a high-level ratings matchup, and you expect these teams to be great college teams for sure. And I don't know if they are trending a little bit younger. Oh, Beck floating it out. A little bit inaccurate, tough. But I don't know if these teams are a little bit younger, not ready for the draft, but they didn't have a ton of names on at least the Tankathon 100 as well, too, which, make no mistake, is where we start all of our draft research. Shout out. So you got Carson Beck as well, Ruben Bain, the edge, and Francis Maguia, chat, the tackle. Number 6 overall player in the draft, though, for Miami. So shout out. And then for Notre Dame, a little bit more. We got Love. We got a couple of linemen, as you would expect. Emil Wagner, Charles Jagsaw. Hey, Christian Gray, a corner, and then Malik Fields, receiver. Leonard Moore, a corner for next year's draft, I guess, is getting some hype as well too. So again, you got teams obviously with not present or having a couple of guys, but for a top 10 team, a little bit lighter as well too, and especially when it can be a little bit focused on like the offensive line specifically, and be loaded up in a certain unit like that. But yeah, to what we were gonna have, complete the thought on Arch Manning there. Maybe he does actually, again, not necessarily we need to reconsider his draft stock, but maybe he does need another year in college, and I don't, from just a development standpoint, or he's not a year one NFL starter in a way that we thought he might be. Or again, maybe he just gets way better over the course of the season and that was just a brutal start. But that was something that I did not think was going to be happening. And because I thought the first round thing would be so sure as well too. And maybe it is, like, I don't know how many of these games Arch Manning would have to not be a first round pick. Like, again, he's going into the season the number one overall pick, and I guess he's not necessarily the number one player on the board, but still pretty highly up there just in terms of overall draft guys. So he's got a bit of a rope, and then again, he's got the Manning legacy thing. Like, there's just a draft rights thing, I think, with him that is in, I I don't know who's going to say it, but I feel like maybe the NFL is just going to be a little more accepting of his nepotism compared to the nepotism of some other quarterbacks that we saw in the draft last year. It is what it is. Like, I just think that, again, maybe the fifth round might not even be his baseline for a bad season. He might be just a third round quarterback just because he is a Manning at some point at the end of the day. But from that elite level prospect type stuff, maybe for him to be a top 5 NFL draft pick, maybe he would need actually another year to prove himself. And again, it's a lot to say after one game, so I don't know if we need to look up their schedule. But it was just a very, again, inaccurate performance, and hopefully that was just nerves, because it did seem like going into the game kind of first snap type stuff that, I'm not necessarily one to, I don't know if I'm PhD with body language doctor over here, but there was a little bit of nervousness that I feel like that was visible earlier on in that first possession. And again, it was just the throws were way off the mark. So if Sark is still getting that play calls, if at least schematically, because again, he is facing Matt Patricia as well too, so that at least from an NFL defensive scheme, like, he's gonna bring that type of knowledge. I know that we can make jokes about him as a head coach, but defensively, again, now even in a college standpoint, you would at least trust him to bring the schemes to make it difficult for the quarterback to read. And Ohio State's going to have the talent to, make some of those things difficult as well too. Of course, you got Caleb Downs, literally probably the best player in the draft, just from the football guy ratings type stuff of it. But I guess the other part that might be in Arch Manning's favor as well too is the rest of it is up in the air. So Nussmeier did play well in his game for sure. I feel like it took a second for LSU to get rolling. I didn't watch that one because we were having a much better time than watching college football. But it did seem like, I don't know, hot take, maybe playing bad teams is back for just an individual quarterback performance standpoint. I guess Sellers in the game that just happened before this, they did get the win. I think athletically he showed it a couple of moments, made some good plays where you can still see the hype for his season. But maybe Lagway's the guy, chat. And again, bad teams, good performances. Like Bryce Underwood looked really good against New Mexico. It is what it is, and he's in a little bit of a different spot. Like, I feel like we have, again, Arch Manning at least has had some reps and has been in a little bit like the NFL thing. He's been in a system. He's had some time to at least, again, have that development in some type of way. Like Bryce Underwood, true freshman. Chad, first ever start in college football, first ever snaps. So again, much different scenario, but he looked really good as well too. Can we get like a leaderboard, an early stats? Maybe there was a guy as well too in the earlier, in maybe some of the smaller schools that had a big performance. And Miami tries a fake field goal earlier on. I don't know about that, chat. You give Notre Dame the ball way into their own territory, so it's going to be a long drive. Maybe you trust your defense to get a stop, and you still have good field position if you can get them to punt, of course. But just taking the 3 in the first quarter, maybe that's a second quarter, third quarter type move, more so than just getting points on the board first, especially after your own turnover as well, and just keeping the momentum of that type of play alive. So, yeah, we've got a Western Kentucky guy here with 706 yards. Is that in one game, or did they have a week 0 game? Hey yo, shout out. But the Hilltoppers wasn't who's the guy we're thinking of? Bailey Zappi? Wasn't Bailey Zappi a Hilltoppers quarterback as well too? So, maybe they just have great offensive chat. It is what it is. So he has had 305 yards in both games, I guess. Shout out, and 8 touchdowns as well too. So Bailey Zappi, look out. Maverick McIver? MacGyver, chat? Do you say it like MacGyver? He can just kind of figure out the quarterback spot. Maybe he's gunning for some of Bailey Zappi's records there. And Brecht. Brecht was another one that had a really good game. I did see a little bit of that one. Get ready, chat. Iron up the old dress shirt. Hopefully, there was a moment there where we were ironing and getting ready for the wedding, and it was like, okay, of course we're in the hotel room that the iron doesn't work, and it's like, oh no, wait, the iron, we gotta make sure this thing's all the way plugged in. We're cooking, we're going. So it worked. Everything was hopefully crisp and looking pretty good. But yeah, they of course were also again easier matchup. South Dakota, shout out. So we're not disrespecting the mid-major schools, but again, it did lend itself to have some of the guys show up in a little bit of a better way. And they also did have the week zero game as well too. So he's had 2 weeks at least to throw passes. No, I know he hasn't had a ton of volume. Only 20 passes in this past game. But again, he only needed 19 for 20, 278, 3 touchdowns, and no picks through 2 games as well. So 6'1", 210. Chat, you just love the fact that the guys just these colleges just have these stereotype quarterbacks. Like we just got a Brock Purdy 2.0. I think he is a little athletic in the same type of way as well. So maybe he's not the last pick in the draft like Brock Purdy, but play style wise, the Niners looking at Brock Purdy's contract, they're like, wait a second, we can get Rocco Beck later in the draft and move on and reset our salary in a different type of way. Shanahan starts thinking he can get creative. Sawyer Robertson from Baylor. So Mater from Oklahoma with 392 this past week as well. Simmons from Ole Miss taking over for Jackson Dart in that Lane Kiffin offense. Has the potential to put up some big numbers this year as well. Levitt did have a good game. I think he had some good running stats as well too. Simpson, 254, but unfortunately it is what it is. More yards than Bryce Underwood, but again, I think a little bit of a different scenario. So, Raiola might be a guy, Chad. Again, he was efficient. He was clutch in that last game. Here, let's pull up some Heisman odds because it's going to be interesting for the Heisman as well. And speaking of that Texas-Ohio State game, again, it's only one game, but for the course of a season, it's still percentage-wise, 8% of the season in the books at this point when we're talking about Heisman voting. And Jeremiah Smith did have a couple of drops in that game as well. So this would be a game for him to have, again, a big fast game, but also against a really good opponent as well too. So he definitely is going to have, great stats, you would assume, over the course of this year. And again, Sand looked good enough in spots in that game where it was at times a lot of those drops that was kind of negatively affecting the Ohio State offense as well. But you expect athletically him to be fine, continue to make plays over the course of the season. And again, their schedule is going to have some games where he's going to continue to go off. Sellers, so 12 of 19. They just showed the stats on the bottom line for ESPN. Again, not necessarily a ton of attempts, but still able to be efficient and make some plays. And like we were saying, showed the athleticism on the ground. So for his ability for Heisman types of, I think I saw a stat on the Graham chat that said that he was the most bet guy for the Heisman this year. So, I mean, it made sense. He was right in that perfect range of just on that outside of that top tier where it was really Arch Manning and Klubnik might have been the top two. Definitely the top two most picked. I don't know if maybe Smith was in there odds-wise between them in some type of way as well. But Sellers with the running ability and the efficiency through the air is going to have the ability to put up stats. And again, South Carolina is going into the season ranked 13th, so they're going to have the ability to be a good team if they can kind of hold their spot as well. Ooh, Carr stuffed on third. Hey, pause. Tackle for a loss on 3rd and 1. So the Miami defensive line, chat, making some athletic plays. I guess I don't know if we have to go for the grades here, but hey, maybe we are not able to look up the FanDuel on the computer. It is what it is. Hey, chat, where'd our phone go? We're not going to just be able to look up these FanDuel odds at all. I thought I had it right over here ready to go. Is it in the shot? Can you see it, chat? Point out. Where's Waldo with the phone? I don't know if it's going to be visible. Oh, clutch, chat. FanDuel's just making us nervous. It is what it is. Just needed a second to get going. I guess this Miami Notre Dame game is indecisive enough that it doesn't know what's going to happen yet. It had to reload. So Nussmeier takes the lead at plus 750. And yeah, Arch Manning, I think, is just not gonna. He's not gonna be in the conversation. 18-1. I don't know if he's good value now at this point. Aller, has Penn State played yet, or did they just have such a low key performance that it didn't even matter? Maybe they're on the schedule for later tonight or tomorrow as well. But you would assume Bill Belichick in North Carolina, they're not just giving him the primetime spot in that moment and just clearing out the entire schedule for him. So wait, Saturday, Friday, Saturday. Where's Sunday at here, Chad? Ayo. Massive day, Saturday. Okay, Penn State. Do they have the week off this week? Imagine Penn State not getting out there week one. Maybe they played week 0 as well. Oh, here we go. Nevada, 46-11. Aller with 217, so they had 46. At the end of the day, again, easier opponent, not necessarily probably needing that much from him. Beck at plus 18-1. Gunnar Stockton at 12-1. Sellers is up to 9-1 after this game as well. But again, it's not like we're talking Heisman after one game, but it's not. Again, it really did feel like the landscape kind of just reshuffled in a big way, and some of these guys really shifted down. I can't believe Lagway is still 20-1 as well too. Florida got the win. He looked really good. Again, easier opponent, but they're up there in the rankings, and if they can build some momentum early, it can definitely help them as they hit the later stretches. Castellanos, chat, for Florida State, and maybe we have to start raising the red flags for Kalen DeBoer as well too, because he is going to be, continue to be a really good college head coach. Of course, wherever he ends up next, chat, it is what it is. But you just know whoever is there after Saban, not only, again, is it impossible expectations, like everybody says, as it is, but they're just going to have a shorter leash as well too, because of those impossible expectations. Once now, DeBoer, once now he's reset a little bit the expectations. And not to say that Alabama fans are like, okay, we're not a national title team, but now that there at least has been another guy that has, had the seasons, that pressure is kind of off a little bit of whoever goes in next. Now they're not following Saban. Again, they're following Kalen DeBoer as well too. So you're always going to be added into the legacy of Alabama things, and I guess there's that pressure of, is this going to be the guy that brings back Alabama to the national title level? But again, I think maybe the leash of it, like we're saying, the 3 to 4 years, maybe becomes a little more realistic for the next guy compared to where if they have another kind of down season. Again, I don't think it's a statement on DeBoer as he's not a worthy college football coach if he's not good for the Alabama job right now. I think it's a timing thing, and I think, again, it's just, we're talking about one of the 4 or 5 best jobs in college football at this point in DeBoer's career, where they did go with again, a little bit of a prospect guy at that coaching spot. And I don't know, with Saban and with a bunch of the guys kind of retiring and exiting out, maybe headed for the NFL as well too, like, there may have not have been the veteran guy for them to acquire in the same type of way. But, DeBoer had a little bit of a shorter run at Washington there, and again, it had the one season of them being a national title team. He had Penix. It's not like, I guess, was he also at Indiana before that and brought Penix with him? Or did Penix go with the offensive coordinator or something like that? I don't remember exactly where he was at before that. But again, he had really one season in the national competition limelight, and we didn't necessarily, have a ton of seasons to see him recruiting in that type of way. So it's not to say that, if you go with, again, like a Lane Kiffin type, where it's like, maybe he could have another level to go as a college head coach with all the resources at Alabama, and he has proven a little bit as we've seen the offenses be big and all that different stuff. You go with the guy that doesn't have necessarily the same baggage that some of the other prospects would have, but again, it's just a little bit more unproven and a little bit more of a question mark. And when things go wrong as well too, you don't have the legacy to lean on and go, well, we've proven that he's done this in this spot, blah 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 blah. Because again, it's just a newer run for DeBoer. So like, if it doesn't go to Alabama, like if it's not Alabama by the end of this year, he'll be fine. Somebody, he'll just maybe they'll do like a trade, like whoever they want will just want DeBoer as the replacement at that point, because he'll still be a coveted guy for what he did doing at Washington. And I think the way he's recruited at Alabama, like Alabama, you would assume would still be, again, a really good team as well too. But they have dropped a couple of easy games, and that would be the thing as well. It'd be a little different if their only losses were to the higher level teams, and it's like, oh, DeBoer, he's right there. It is tough to be the Alabama head coach. Oh man, only a couple guys can do it, but at least he's trying and getting them right on the edge. Pause. But they are, again, losing some games that they shouldn't be losing as well, and that's kind of the extra level of being the Alabama head coach, where you already have the national title expectations, but now week to week, there's not the same type of consistency. And I was thinking about that with Saban as well, too, where I forget which college guy was saying it. Everybody obviously is happy that Alabama's back to not having the same sort of dominance year to year. But, and shout out, we're always going to be obviously arguing for our guy, Greg Popovich, to be the number one guy. And college is a little bit different for the ability to replenish top talent, if you can do it, obviously, compared for the NBA. You do have the luxury of contracts in that, professional sports where you could have a guy for 10 years versus 2 years or even one season. But, obviously now it's a little bit different. Everybody just requests a trade. But if you do get the number one guy and he does produce, maybe it's a little bit easier to continue to get the number one guy versus, again, if you have the number one guy in the NFL, maybe it's a little bit more difficult to get the number one guy. Now, then it gets into the conversation a little bit of, the situations and why the guys become the best guys and all that. But the certainty that you have with Saban in college football, I think year to year in terms of winning a championship or winning a title on whatever level might actually be the most year to year they've got. And maybe that is a credit for him getting out at the right time as well too, because again, I was thinking about Saban when I was hearing somebody say that year to year consistency thing. I was like, man, that's and again, college is different, but even in college like basketball, I would say it's a little bit above Coach K compared to Coach K definitely the last do I say 20 years of his coaching run, like they were getting the classes, but they weren't necessarily, again, always a national. There was definitely some early exits and some disappointing stuff where, again, Saban was kind of always, national title team, or they were losing the national title game. They're just basically there every year, or like the number 3 ranked team in the preseason. We could go up and look, I guess, but up until the last couple of years, like what would it even have been as low as finish? Pause in the AP poll. But even against Saban the last couple of years with the NIL thing and the talent starting to kind of spread out a little bit, it was definitely having a couple of weeks earlier in the season where they didn't lose the South Florida game, but they had one of those games early where it was like kind of a brutal performance against South Florida and they almost lost, and it was like, oh, is this question marks? And maybe they were, the week before that they had lost, or the week after that they do end up losing, or something. I forget the order of events there. But, they were having some sort of atypical Alabama performances in some of those end Saban years as well too. So I don't think it's all on DeBoer. I think it is a little bit of the talent in the NIL thing, and just the teams are slightly more even. But again, it's definitely been a little bit more inconsistent with the, I guess the inconsistencies have been more consistent with DeBoer than they were with even, end of the run Nick Saban there for a second. So, again, I'm not necessarily, he's still going to be and have the opportunity to be coaching great schools here in D1 and be a great legacy college football head coach. But I am worried, for him in Alabama this year, because I think that is a pretty short leash if they have a couple of these performances. And especially now that the playoff is expanded to 12 teams, like if Alabama were to miss a 12-team playoff, like that would be brutal. Because 4 teams is tough, especially with the conference respect you have to pay as well too, where Alabama was, I'm trying to remember which years, but I feel like there was a year or two where they were on the wrong side of that, where it's like, hey, they might be the better team, but this team has won their conference and achieved whatever, and you kind of have to pay respect. But again, now with the 12-team situation, you just have to be, if you're Alabama, you just have to be Alabama, year to year, and you should be at least competing, or at least in a spot to compete for a national title by making a 12-team playoff. So if DeBoer were, I think maybe, and if anybody were to miss a 12-team playoff at Alabama, they're probably not going to return as the head coach next year, the following season. But it is after 2 years and a couple of seasons removed off of making a national title game. It would be a little bit of a bummer, obviously, for DeBoer to not be able to continue to have that legacy thing. But I did see a post as well, another post chat. Hey, what were we doing? Scrolling through Instagram, but about DeBoer changing up his office, changing up Saban's office to like this new modern style. So DeBoer's new office does look cool because it's really modern. It really fits the vibe of like the way locker rooms look. The post that we saw was comparing it to a T-Mobile store, which it does, of course, have the very the minimal techie vibes, but it was seamless. It would like be seamless. If it was, I guess, an open concept office locker would be wild. Then you'd really have to look into DeBoer, like what's going on there. But just from an architectural, a design consistency standpoint, like you could go open concept. Like it would make sense, obviously. Like the designs would carry over. Is I guess what I'm trying to say. But Saban had this great old school like wooden desk, old school chairs, bookshelf situation. Like DeBoer's got no bookshelf, chat. Is that the sign of a good? That used to be the sign of a good coach. Was a bookshelf, and they would just be reading books. Like I feel like Andy Reid has a bookshelf in his office. I don't know if every good NFL coach does, but I feel like McVay might have a bookshelf. Should we do a Google search? Does McVay have a bookshelf in his office? Because he might. Pete Carroll definitely does for sure. Again, he's old school. I don't know what class we put Belichick in at this point, but I would assume that Belichick has a bookshelf. See, like I don't know if Steichen has a bookshelf in his office, chat. Maybe I should DM Ballard and be like, when you're interviewing these coaches, you should ask them about their bookshelf. Do they read? Is it part of the daily routine as well? Because maybe LaFleur would have a book. Shanahan definitely does, chat. You know that Shanahan's got a bookshelf in his office, some playbooks probably, but a bookshelf nonetheless. But maybe Lane Kiffin has a playbook as well, a bookshelf as well too. So, but I don't know if he does, chat. I actually kind of doubt it. If he does, it's definitely just for looks. Maybe he's skimmed gifts that he's gotten, recommends, and then you can just kind of add them to the collection. But he went with the modern design, and I would have just liked sticking with the old school vibes. Saban even had like a hat stand in the back of his desk, just next to these old school big thick curtains as well too. And he had, I don't even know what kind of hat you call it. Do we just basic guy hats? Old school guy hats. Let's see what we get here for a result. It's not like this fedora type hat. Just like a basic everyday 1920s. Yeah, not quite a cowboy hat. Oh, I guess maybe this is a fedora. I guess I don't maybe know hats as well. I thought this was a fedora. What's this painter's hat type of situation? Like a cab driver type hat. But this is more a gentleman's type hat. Between a top hat and a cowboy hat sort of situation. So I guess that is a fedora. Shout out. Do we just go fedora search here real quick and confirm? Rem learns what a fedora is. Right here. Fedor, the soccer player. Also a legend, I guess. But so yeah, Saban had his fedora. Should we look up Nick Saban fedora? I bet we find a photo of him looking classy, like a gentleman here, from his Alabama days, and maybe even on here we go, game day as well too. Look, so he always did go with kind of the straw hat as well. Maybe this was the hat that he had on the hat stand. It was a little lighter colored, so I didn't necessarily have the straw hat appearance, but it was also a little bit of a distance in the background, so you wouldn't necessarily get the detail of it. So it probably was a straw fedora. Hey, shout out. If this is the Saban staple, then this is definitely what it was. So I don't know if you can keep the hat stand in the office. Let's see if we can look it up here, chat. I don't know. Shout out the Bing, but it's not the best with the current images. Oh, yeah, see, this is Saban's office right here. Look at this, chat. Just beautiful old school wood paneling, big leather couch. You got like a red leather chair. This might even recline, honestly. The way the arms are kind of, the waterfall edge on the arms, I feel like that's a recliner. big comfy chair that he sits in with the cushions. You just sink into, chat. Nice artwork. And then, yeah, see Kalen DeBoer, the T-Mobile store. So I do, again, like the vibes, the modern look and the seamless cabinet office filing desk situations are all good. You got the couch TV set up off to the side. The round table in the middle is a little weird. I don't know why you wouldn't just go, chairs around the desk and then maybe a second table. I guess I don't know, but just the old school. Just to lean into the legacy of what Alabama is. I feel like, and that's maybe what the post was more so concerned about as well too. Is not just did Kalen DeBoer not get the right design, but it's, hey, do you want to be the guy that's like, this is my thing? After Alabama was, again, Saban's thing for so long, and then it just did the way he was able to solidify that program as the top program. And Bear Bryant is like, there's obviously been legendary guys as well too before Saban, but I mean, he ascended to arguably the greatest coach of all time. So I don't know. Do we have to like look up what John Shire's office looks like compared to Coach K's office? But him being a disciple as well. Yeah. See, here's the desk that Saban has kicked up on the desk. I guess maybe no books on the bookshelf, Chad. I guess there's some books kind of mixed in here. I guess he's got so many trophies and accolades that he's had to hide the books on the lower shelves. Is this Tom Rinaldi? It's a blurry photo, but I just now dawned on me that might be Tom Rinaldi. I don't know if we can get like a deja vu. Can we get Jack Black in here to get the pixels right on here? Get the zoom on those deja vu cameras, or is that deja vu where they have the crazy cameras and they're zooming in, or is that? Ooh, that might be Man on Fire that I'm thinking of. It's one of those Tony Scott, Denzel movies. Which one's Jack Black in, chat? Ayo. But here, let's look up Coach K, see what his office looked like, and then see if John Shire. I feel like John Shire might have just like left it as a tourist destination. It's like you guys can go in and see. I mean, speaking of accolades, Chad, honestly, Coach K, this might be the same office that he just got hired at. I mean, is this a cubicle? Like there's sunlight popping in here. That might just be a window, but that could be the edge to another desk or another office space as well too. Like speaking of John Shire, he has the cubicle next to Coach K. Might actually be crazy. Again, these coaches out of a different era. So I think hot take, wood paneling probably going to be a common theme in offices of old coaches. It is what it is. He's got some like sideline chairs in here for people to sit in. I mean, there are probably pretty comfy, and when they're not crammed together, ayo, it's definitely a little bit better. A bar stool situation as well, but yeah, I guess this actually just is a card shop. Is this Coach K's corner in a card shop? That might not even be his office, chat. This picture here is just a card shop, but that might be in this card shop. I'm not sure. This is why Bing is not the best. Maybe Coach K's never actually let us into his office as well too. Oh, chat, this might be it. Is this Duke? This is UCLA. Is this Chip Kelly back in the day? I don't know, 15 Jim Mora. This is Jim Mora's office. I mean, UCLA, you got the winner. Coach's office corner. Hey, yo, chat. We go ahead and rank which coaches had the best office. I would definitely do the research on that. I'd be interested in looking up. I'm down to just go through and look at pictures of coaches' offices, chat. Shout out. That'd be fun. So I guess we're not probably going to be able to research and see if Shire renovated in a major way. But, yeah, hopefully Arch Manning, the Texas offense renovations, chat. Hey, yo. Arch Manning renovating the mechanics. We saw some people comparing him to Uncle Rico, which is not great as well too. I don't know if people would be comparing him in a fun way if he was playing good. It's like, oh man, Uncle Rico out here throwing for 300 yards against Ohio State. But maybe you're more inclined to think about Uncle Rico in an Arch Manning comparison if he's not playing well too. But again, they're long season. Texas offense is going to be good. The team's good. The defense is good. So it's still going to be fine for him to perform and for him to develop as a quarterback, continue to get his game better. But maybe they aren't going to be quite the national title team if he's not there. And maybe he will, be a next year more so type quarterback than this year. But if he just wants to get into the NFL and you're thinking, okay, next year you play in college, because again, I guess he has proven that he's okay with not playing in a certain type of way. So if he is thinking you play in college and then just go right to the NFL and play year one, versus, I guess at the end of the day, you're gonna get the picks thing. So if he's not starting in year one, he's probably like the 15th pick in the draft. Again, maybe he's a second round pick or something like that too. But the dollar value between the 15th and the first round pick is a little bit, and he would definitely be more likely to make it up with some of the endorsement stuffs as well. And that was another thing that was a little bit of a bummer in that game, was just the amount of Arch Manning commercials during it. It's like, okay, we're already in the Travis Kelsey, Patrick Mahomes post Super Bowl type, phase of his career, with him just being commercial, and it's, again, with his Manning background, going to be a little bit different for him being kind of fast tracked to the public limelight. But even Bronny, there's like a little bit limited with the commercials that he's in. Like he's in a couple with his, there's like a couple of Nike things that I guess maybe he's appeared in. I guess maybe some Dick's Sporting Goods stuff. I don't know. But yeah, I guess just this early on for the Arch Manning experience, to be definitely focused on it that much was a little bit interesting to see. But maybe like we're saying, 18-1 is good value. But you've got him and Dante Moore with the same odds. Wait, what was Dante Moore's performances like? Because we do have Dante Moore stock, and were they the same class as well? I know Dante Moore was at one point in the class that he was in, maybe rated the number one quarterback. So I don't remember if he was the Caleb Williams class or not. But I feel like Dante Moore, Arch Manning, and Nico those might have been the top three guys by the time it was all said and done as well. So you do have Klubnik going up against Nussmeier. So, one of those guys is going to end up walking away the loser. But again, Montana State. So now with back in the day, the 4-team playoff, playing a tougher opponent actually was beneficial. If it did win, it was like an early playoff game in the first game of the season. And at any point in the season, if you just had like one loss, it was going to almost wreck your season. But if you had this major win to maybe give you a little leeway throughout, but then also to just, fast track you into the playoffs with just an immediate resume booster like that, it was a little bit more important that maybe you play a tougher opponent in the different era. But now, like we're saying, if it's a 12-team playoff and you have preseason hype and all you do is kind of maintain your spot by just winning games, how are they going to drop you 12 teams? If you're the 12th team, the 13th team, the 14th team, maybe you need to, again, separate yourself a little bit. But if you're Texas and Ohio State, or, Michigan, I guess, again, is not the 5th-ranked team this year. We're actually in that 14 to 13 range. But us being a Michigan school, if we're already being hyped up that type of way and people were eyeing our quarterback as he can go in and lead this roster, and we still have enough defensive guys, of course, and the new recruits to be able to have one of the top defenses in the league, maybe we are a playoff team this year. Like if we just keep winning our games, even if we lose to a number 1 ranked Ohio State at the end of the year, we're still probably looking at ourselves as the 10th best team. And once you start going 12 is like a little easier to comprehend, but once you start going 10, you're like, okay, are we a 10th best team in college football? But you can definitely see that type of resume being a little bit easier to, again, just maintain if you're winning against some easier opponents. So Oregon, number 7 in the AP poll, they start off 1-0. They really take care of business as well too, so they don't leave any doubt, which is good. Dante Moore, 213 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's where the 3 is at there on the touchdowns. Still obviously impressive, and he's not going to play a lot because I guess he did throw 23 passes, so a little bit maybe checking it down, maybe some good field position as well too throughout the course of the game. I guess just a lot of guys getting carries. How many guys with over 20 yards, Chad? I guess Luke Moga, shout out, 1 rush for 25, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys with over 20 yards, and then Dante Moore himself with 18, and then the receiver DeCorian Moore with 17 yards as well. So just the diverse rushing attack from Oregon looking like it could be pretty terrifying. And just in general, I guess maybe from a Heisman standpoint, it could be a little bit open this year, but also the national title feels like it could be a little bit open this year as well. Like Georgia, right now they have the number 1 national title odds. I mean, with all due respect to Gunnar Stockton, like, I guess he could obviously continue to solidify himself as one of the top guys in the league, but he is a guy that you could just see matchup to match, week to week. In the playoffs, there's certain scenarios where, like, well, they do have Gunnar Stockton at the quarterback. So, again, maybe Texas and Arch Manning would have been a team that we're debating that. But if it's LSU and Nussmeier, You're like, oh, the Georgia defense is playing well again, but the LSU does have Nussmeier. Do we trust Gunnar Stockton versus Nussmeier in a big moment? So it does feel like, again, earlier on in the season, at least, like I'm saying, we get to the end of the year, maybe somebody does separate themselves as a definite national title, but at least earlier on, the discovery to find out who that team is going to be, we don't know who that is yet. Georgia is looking interesting and again, and I don't think that, myself included, I guess we weren't necessarily doing like college preview, college football preview content here on the Rim and Sam pod. I guess we'll have to go back and rewatch, our Four Brothers pod. Did we talk about, college football at all on that? I don't remember. You'll just have to go check that one out. But I don't know if just, again, mentally, I was giving Kirby Smart the benefit of the doubt the same way that maybe we should have for other multi-time national champions. And maybe there's a little bit of the Dabo Swinney effect there where, again, Saban was obviously the one guy the past 20 some years to just have the consistent programs, but they're really, honestly, like Urban Meyer is really the only other one, and Harbaugh as well too. But again, he bounced back and forth between the NFL and college, and it did take him a little while to get Michigan going. And they, the 14 program, like we were just on the outside looking in there, the couple of years on that 4 team, and then we did, get in, lose a playoff game. We took steps. It's not like, again, Urban Meyer goes to Ohio State and just immediately, they have the run, whatever. But again, the list of guys that are just consistently year to year, you can lock them in to, like, we know Dabo can have good teams, and Clemson maybe this year is a good team, but I guess starting off the way they started is probably not going to help the Dabo Swinney case as well too for, again, him being in that top tier. But it's not the, okay, is this going to be the good Dabo Swinney year? It's more like, oh, wait a second, this is not the Dabo Swinney year? Or, because, again, that's what we're saying with Saban, is you just get more surprised by the years that are, obviously, again, it's a different level of just like, oh, they didn't win the national title, but for them sort of being in the picture, out of the picture as well too. And I guess maybe the point with Kirby Smart is he hasn't necessarily dropped out of the picture the same way that maybe Dabo did a little bit has over the past couple of years, and they have, been a little bit up and down with some of their quarterback recruitment as well. But defensive stuff, and I know that there was a large conversation there about them with the staff changeover and how he was replenishing the staff, and maybe that he needed to look in different ways to do that as well too. But again, like at least Kirby's, like the team last year, it was just them not being maybe a solid national title team, a definite national title team that was a little bit of a step down from a Kirby Smart team, and they were still again in the mix, but not necessarily the total definite team. And Clemson and some of these other teams have kind of dropped it. Like James Franklin has kind of, been on the outside looking in. I guess they haven't really even broken into quite the top conversation quite yet. And, same with Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly at Notre Dame has had some years where it seems like some stuff has, really gone the wrong direction as well. So, I guess all that being said, maybe Kirby Smart, of course, just does emerge again as like, if who's gonna put together the best program in a year of uncertainty, maybe we do have to start giving Kirby Smart the respect as that top guy as well. But again, Georgia was playing Marshalls, so it's not like they were necessarily having the toughest matchup in week 1. But I was surprised, again, shout out to Tankathon, I was surprised about the amount of Georgia guys listed, because they were not being talked about as a team that did have that was replenishing the talent in the same type of way. And the amount of Alabama guys is crazy if you're watching the scroll here on the screen. And again, they did lose, but there was a moment where after Arch Manning was playing well and I was scrolling through Tankathon, I was like, man, is Alabama the most talented team? Like, do I have to bet Alabama to win the national title? I almost bet Alabama to win the national title and Ryan Williams to win the Heisman, just because I was like, this much talent and he's going to be the best player on the team. But fortunately, we did not do that. So we may just go ahead and jinx Lagway and just throw a little bet on Lagway. Clemson was, obviously stacked as well too. But you've got linebacker, defensive line, wide receiver, cornerback, tight end, tackle, linebacker. And that's just in this class as well. You've got a good mix of talent. And again, at least Gunnar Stockton can, man the fort at quarterback and get better. And like we were saying in that Ohio State game, I think unfortunately Sayan did look pretty good. And I think as the receivers, play with more consistency as all that continues to gel as well, he is going to be a guy for him. And I don't think he's a this draft type guy. So there's going to be Ohio State always seems to get these guys in at like the perfect time as well, where they can have a couple of years to have them in the mix. And it's like they had the perfect time to just like sit a year, have the development, then play the 2 years and get the impact that you need for them to be a consistent competitive team. Because again, it is nice to not have a different quarterback every year, even if it is 2 years at 3 years at the max. They were showing a Notre Dame stat before this game. Marcus Freeman, I think they said, has had 6 different starting quarterbacks to start each of the last different years. So, with CJ Carr, it's like you got a young guy in there. Maybe he's the starting quarterback for the next couple of years, and you actually have a chance to, this is actually where you can now become a program and start to develop in that type of way. Because, again, like Harbaugh needed McCarthy there for a couple of seasons. Spate, was definitely there for a couple seasons. There was some consistency, and they got close. They got close with Cade, McNamara, and that was maybe more surprising looking back as well too. But once they got McCarthy, and then McCarthy in that second season was able to actually power through and win the title, and so were the running backs as well. But maybe you actually have some program consistency here with Notre Dame. But I guess point being, Sayan in this year as well too is going to be just that, maybe a little McCord-esque. I don't know if he's going to be, and we could see Heisman. I don't know if he's going to be like Justin Fields, for Ohio State. But if they're good, he'll obviously be in the conversation, and he's going to be able to do the distributor thing and the quick processing and be able to run that offense to a very efficient degree, where they're going to be right back in the mix as well too. So Texas, honestly, at 4 is just really a credit to their roster. Outside of Archie, again, that Arch Manning might have had, and again, I didn't look at the rest of the list and see the rest of the games, but that could have been a top 5 worst performance as well too. And I don't even want to go back and look at the highlights. And I don't want to say, I feel like, you can check the tapes. Like hopefully this is not the one pod that Arch Manning listens to. Go back and check the tapes. Like again, we're pro nepotism. We're pro Arch Manning, even if it wasn't the nepotism. Like we love the tape, chat. We love the film. He seems like a great prospect. But I guess for our own personal stock, we are a little nerve-wracking as well too. LSU at 12-1 is not bad, and I guess Oregon is getting some respect. They are 7 though. I guess Miami, Florida, 30-1 right now. So we're keeping an eye on Florida, but I think Michigan, we're gonna have a legit shot to make the playoffs as well. Like Underwood might be. There's a real case that Underwood might be like a top 7 quarterback in college football by the end of the year. And again, he's gonna have a chance to build some momentum. He's got some real confidence after a game like this one, where he was able to have great stats, great performance, comfortable win, and the defense played. The only time New Mexico was really able to have big moments, they had a fun trick play that's going to go around in the highlights. But other than that, it's how much were they able to really do. You still have the run game there to balance out the rest of the offense and still be kind of the main thing that you can lean on strategically to help build out the rest of the stuff as well. But if we're just looking at the quarterbacks with the quarterback-led teams, that's a good case. So where is Florida State? I guess they're probably going to jump into the rankings. I don't know rest of the team if they're supposed to be a good team, like what the recruits are as well. But it's Florida State, it's Norvell. So if they were by the end of the year a top 15 team, a top 18 team in college football, I guess that wouldn't be surprising. Maybe it makes the Alabama loss look a little bit better as well. But the Castellanos, the way he was able to create in that game, maybe it makes him an interesting quarterback leader for this season. And Carr has looked pretty good in this game. They had that turnover early, was not really on him. It was just good tackle by the defender, and the offensive player just not really, I think, being prepared for the hit in the right type of way. But he is just confidently kind of not necessarily hitting any big plays yet, but I don't think has necessarily thrown any crazy off the mark passes at this point. Just kind of safe, checking it down, move the offense types of, not check downs, but underneath shorter type throws. So here we go. We got a little bit up the sideline right there. The defender, that was to Love, kind of on the wheel route. The defender was in a good spot, and there was an opportunity there for him to get that pass around him. Maybe a little bit of a hold as well too through the timing off, but I don't think that was necessarily super catchable as well. So maybe that is a part that we'll see how that continues to develop, some of the deep intermediate stuff for him this year. But for them to not for them to make the national title game, and Riley Leonard was a little bit of a gamer as well. He could throughout the course of a game move the ball with creating on the ground with his legs, and they turned the corner on the run. I don't know if he's going to get into the end zone there, but it's going to be first and goal now for Notre Dame, chance to tie the game. I don't, again, Riley Leonard was able to create offense, even if it was chaotic at times throughout the course of a game, but he could clutch up and hit some throws as well too if they needed him to. But to have Love returning as one of the best running backs in college football, I don't know who this guy is that just had the run to the outside, but just the run game in general might continue to be strong. And if you have a more consistent pocket passer, then Notre Dame might be a continued top team as well. So they're 12-1. So maybe this is like a bet 'em at halftime. Jadarian Price was the running back on that play, 30 yards. And he's in the backfield right now. I guess timeout for Notre Dame as the play clock's running down there. But they are 13-1. I guess the odds are moving right now, Chad. Ayo. Alabama still at 17-1. First, again, start for Simpson. So I don't know if it was, are we tracking first start or tough start? Because, again, Underwood, first start, but easy start. So you have Lagway, not first start, but also play well. Dante Moore, I guess, again, not first start, but first start for Oregon in a big way. So CJ Carr, first start, again, tough start going against Miami. We'll say first start for Arch Manning. I think Dante Moore's had a little bit more run than Arch Manning at this point. Sayan, again, first start, tough start. I think he played well as well, too. And Gunnar Stockton, we'll give him a first start, taking over the team in a major way. But he's kind of a first start, easy start classification as well. So Nussmeier, first start, tough start. So maybe we do have to respect LSU for, shocker, for winning that Clemson game earlier on. I guess, should we go back and look at week 1 last year, chat, just to see maybe how much stuff changed over the course of the year? Because, again, with the 12-team playoff, I'm still trying to calculate what the effects are of the individual weeks. And I guess we're going to go to Dylan Harper's page here, college basketball. But what the effects are of the individual weeks and the individual losses on these teams for dropping them in the rankings. Because you could, I guess, make a case that maybe you drop both Texas and Ohio State after that game for just not necessarily giving us the entertainment value. Oh, chat, Price just fumbled. Fortunately, Carr was directly behind the play and able to just fall right on top of it, third and goal. Still within pretty good scoring range as well, too, inside the 10. But that's the second fumble tonight for Notre Dame player. And was that the same guy that forced the last fumble? I don't think so. But the defensive line for Miami is pretty active. And I do think that, again, from a college national championship, just competitive standpoint, I know that I tend to, we're literally witnessing it right now. I tend to gravitate toward the guys that maybe are going to get, Lagway could continue to prove himself an NFL guy, but Carson Beck could maybe impact a college game kind of like Lagway. Great play by CJ Kachev. We're going to, the most chill, great reactions because we're just in a hotel room. I feel like we're already getting too loud. It is what it is, but we haven't got the knock on the door yet. So great play by Carr, running around, creating, extending the play, and finding the guy in the end zone there on third and goal. Again, after falling on the fumble as well, too. So saves the possession, just the drive in general, and then creates from the quarterback spot. So that's that kind of Riley Leonard, I guess-esque play where if you were going to get a good play that wasn't going to result in just an interception or something, this was going to be kind of it. So he also provides the athleticism as well. Again, maybe you're not going to be running the option, but you have the running backs to, I guess, carry the run game. Oh, excuse me, Chad. In that type of, in that way of your offense. So here, let's go back last year and see how dramatic the results were compared to what we got by the end of the year. So I don't know if this is going to give us the preseason rankings or the rankings when they met. Georgia versus Clemson. That's right. Georgia did take down Clemson pretty good, but I feel like by the end of the season, both those teams were a little bit more close in vibes. Did Clemson end up making the playoffs? Maybe they didn't. 14th. Okay, they did miss the playoffs. Oh, no, first round. 14th in final AP polls. So that must have been after. They dropped him out of playoff level ranking after that loss. But I guess Texas did that first round of the playoff was not great. So that final score, that even looks better than that game was at one point. So here, go back week 1, August. And speaking of August, I think for Alabama, they said the first ever loss in the month of August as well too, which again, you don't want to be the head coach that has those type of historic things happen. Michigan at Cal. Oh, that's September 21st. Not quite week 1. Here we go back to the 29th. Maybe we didn't have as many high-level matchups as we did last week. Notre Dame at Texas A&M was their big game. And Texas A&M was 20. They were definitely, again, not quite able to produce like that over the course of the year, even though, it's not like the craziest ranking. And then LSU versus USC was the other one. And USC ended up getting the win over LSU. But, again, LSU, I think, was the better team by the time we got to the end of the season. USC finished 7-6. So maybe that was the one week or the one game that had the most dramatic result compared to the season. So I don't know which, because that was both both ranked teams as well too. So just in terms of the overall rank, because to get 2 top 10 matchups, it's obviously probably historic just in general. Do we look back every year to see if we've gotten that? I doubt it. But at least a top 25, top 15 matchup in there. And you had Florida State losing to Boston College as well. So that was definitely a crazy upset. Tennessee looked, I guess, really good, and they obviously didn't end up quite performing that way. So a top 15 team that put up a ton of points, but maybe a little question marky at the quarterback position. Can we pull up a poll here, chat, and see how these teams just ended up performing from the top 25 in general? Because the schedule listing is a little bit random. Here we go. I guess we'll just have to remember who these teams played off the top of the head then. So, okay, wait. Who are we just looking at here, chat? Ayo. Oh, that's right. What team maybe is the Tennessee of this year? So, again, Alabama lost. So, maybe that's Oregon if Dante Moore is not able to continue to, take steps forward. Again, we have stock in the guy. So, maybe this is our, nightmare worst case scenario. In Tennessee was 15, so they're not quite on that level. You got South Carolina down there. I guess Florida, our guy Lagway, is sitting in that spot this week as well too. And they did have, again, a pretty impressive win against an easier opponent. So I guess we can pull the schedule up in another tab in cross-reference as well. But I think Lagway had a pretty high-volume game, if I'm not mistaken, or at least decently efficient one. So if we go back to the box score for that as well and double check his numbers. Oh, I guess we got all the teams listed here in a good order. Okay, we were doubting ESPN. They did a good job. Yeah, 55-0. Long Island University. Hey, yo, chat. The Long Island University Sharks. I mean, shout out to Long Island, but I don't know if you necessarily think about that as like a football place as well. So I guess Lagway threw as many passes as the backup in this game. Yeah, 15 for 18 for 120 and 3 touchdowns. So again, the efficiency was definitely there as well. But hopefully he trends more Heisman, like we were saying, than Tennessee type range. So obviously we're not considering Michigan a candidate for this as well. Illinois, I don't know what kind of hype they have, if there's maybe a trend upward team or if we kind of expect them to be more consistent throughout the course of the season. But them at 12, with maybe them not having the same type of name value draft stuff going on, maybe they're a team that we're just kind of defaulting to put any contention for this as well. And they did, I guess, have a pretty massive performance, 52-3 in week 1. So who is even their quarterback, chat? Hey, yo, I feel like I know the name, but it's just not. Oh, Altemeyer. That's right. We looked him up recently. So 17 for 21, 217 and 3 touchdowns. He had another crazy efficient game. Running back, 9 for 101, 13 for 74 as well. So did Tennessee, maybe they didn't have the run game to continue to balance. I guess their defense, maybe not on the same level. We go back and look at some of the stats as well. Maybe just, again, as a team, they weren't quite in that top 20, top 15 type range. But I could see, I don't know if there's a team necessarily. I think Oklahoma is a team that people are kind of eyeing. I don't know, Indiana, if Mendoza's a guy that people are thinking is a first round talent, then maybe they are a team that raises up as well too. But maybe Iowa State's a team, and do we have to double check the conferences here? Because maybe Iowa State has an easier conference. If they're not a Big Ten or SEC team, then they might be the kind of sneaky riser team as well too. Because I guess Arizona State is the number one team in the conference right now. But if I remember who even is in, and SMU would be above them as well too. So Arizona State, SMU, Kansas State, Oklahoma, all kind of in the mix over the rankings. So, a couple of Big 12 teams in the top 25 for sure. But with the way Rocco Beck played this past week, if he's going to be a clutch time, efficient performer, and I guess have they even needed, necessarily as much clutchness as well. But if he's going to be a big time performer, then maybe he gives them the edge in some of these situations. So I don't know. Iowa State to win the national title is probably a crazy bet, but Iowa State plus odds to make the playoffs. Let's see if we can find that right here, chat. If they even have, SEC. Okay, I was gonna say they don't even have odds. Big 10. I guess we can confirm. Are they Big 12? Yes. Arizona State, Baylor, Colorado to make the college football playoff, chat. Ayo, yes, 22-1 is a good value. Can Colorado be ranked top 25? That's got to be a special, chat. People are going to be putting money on that. So Iowa State to make the playoffs right now, chat, 490. They're 5-1. So what is the Big 12 projected order then? Right now, we can double check that. So Utah, Texas Tech, Arizona State, and then Iowa State is the top 4. So they're 7-1 to win the Big 12, but plus 490 to make the playoffs. So I guess if we're thinking that they can make the playoffs by winning the Big 12, then we just bet the plus 790, right? Because I guess if we parlay these together, it's not giving us the respect of a plus 400 and a plus 700 parlay. It knows what we're doing, chat. So it's just parlaying these together at plus 780. But Iowa State to win the Big 12 after week 1, is that our crazy week 1 bet? 7-1. Hey, yo, so I know we're having still some of these conferences play out. Miami's 370 right now. We just saw Clemson lose. Oh, I guess SMU's in the ACC. So Florida State 11-1 right now, if they're going to continue to trend upward. Did Boston College win this week? I guess probably not, because they're 55-1. But I did see a highlight of their quarterback just, going crazy on a scramble, making the play last, and then finding the guy for the first down. Oh, they won 66-10. Ayo, was it Dylan Lonergan that was the quarterback that we saw? I guess I don't know if that's the quarterback for the opponent, if he just ended up having more yards in that game. Let's double check the Boston College quarterback here. They may have had, win it 66 points. Probably going to see a couple of names listed on the box score, get some reps for the team. So Grayson James, 5 for 5, 190. 1 touchdown. So, I guess the match was favorable, chat. But yeah, Dylan Lonergan, 26-34 for 268 and 4 touchdowns. 16 for 48 on the ground against Fordham is not ideal. But you are moving the ball through the air quite a bit. So you know that that's going to be a fun passing attack. So maybe not necessarily a sleeper team, but they may be a team to watch in the odds week to week if we think that there's an upset potential with the way that maybe they have an opportunity there to be equal if their quarterback is going to be playing at that type of level. So Clemson plus 145, like we were saying. LSU plus 750 is interesting. I guess, is Bill Belichick going to win the ACC in his first year 40-1 after not having played a game? Maybe this is the best odds we can get right now, chat. If they just go out and dominate TCU, then it could be a real statement. Virginia Tech at 55-1. Again, after just watching them play South Carolina, they really competed in that game, and their receivers are good as well, too. The quarterback made some good plays. It was a little bit of sometimes he threw it off and sometimes the receivers dropped. All that stuff still needs to continue to mesh, but the down the field, just kind of chuck it up and let the receivers make jump ball plays was definitely being really effective. Again, some of the route running in between stuff needed to be cleaned up a little bit, but they maybe are going to be a feisty team to compete against as well. So the ACC is a tough one. I don't know if I'm feeling confident enough, but I would say I guess the craziest long shot would be obviously at this point Florida State at 11-1 if we want to ride the hype train. In the Big Ten, I guess you're not going to get anything super surprising, but Michigan at 9-1 would be the crazy bet at this point. So I don't know if we just bet all of the fourth place teams to win their conferences after week one. Is that the genius move of the Rem and Sam pod? Illinois at 30-1. I guess if they're going to be a playoff type team, maybe they have a couple of upsets and then make a surprise run. Obviously, Ohio State seems like they're going to be continuing to be that overwhelmingly talented team, and then you have Penn State up there at the top. But again, Michigan's talented for talented right there with those teams, and if our quarterback could be the best quarterback in the Big Ten, I'm not even saying that lightly. I do think that he has that potential, and again, he was the number one overall recruit in his class, so it's not a hot take to think that he could get there as well, or at least expect that he could be, showing flashes of that earlier on. And if you're going, Dante Moore, Drew Aller, and Julian Sain, again, we really like maybe their ability to run those offenses. Maybe Moore was the most hyped up other college prospect guy or high school prospect at one point. But I don't know if they hit sort of the same individual levels that maybe we think Bryce Underwood could hit as well too. And then the rest of the teams, it would really, you would still trust Michigan to get wins over the rest of these teams based on our talent. So that's not a bad bet as well. And, we've played Ohio State well the last couple of years. So I'm not going to get confident now because, at some point, I guess we have to make up for all the years that we lost. But, that's probably says more about Michigan over that stretch than it does about, the nature of the evenness of the rivalry. I guess, we did have our runs earlier on where we got them for like 30 years in a row at the turn of the century. But SEC is going to be a battle as well too. And you got Clemson or LSU at 6-1 to win the SEC. They're right at almost the same odds at Bama after just losing to Florida State at 7-1. Georgia at plus 260 is so Georgia is whoa, Chet, we're getting loud right there. The one-handed grab by the Miami receiver. Who was that? Can we get the nameplate on the graphic? CJ Daniels. Whoa, what a snag, Chat. Carson Beck. I don't know if we give him credit for making a play there, but again, he's a guy that can distribute. He's been in a lot of big games at Georgia, been in a tough environment, and I think the week-to-week easiness of a ACC schedule compared to an SEC schedule, like we're saying, can give you maybe some extra momentum headed into the playoffs. And do you want tough matchups and good experience, and do you want to be tested? Absolutely. But you also want to be confident, and you want to be playing well, and you want to be in a groove. And I know, Miami last year was able to, or had the, I guess, the negative effect of a poor schedule where, they dropped some games and it ended up hurting them to the point of not being in the playoffs. But also maybe they wouldn't have been tested the right way going into the playoffs. But this is a legit matchup. And again, Carson Beck himself has been tested over his career. You can't take those reps away from him at this point, even if you're not valuing them the same way that maybe you should. So I think Miami is a fun national title team as well too. So I guess we're just like, how many teams can we compare against Ohio State is basically the thought after week one of, can we talk ourselves, are these teams these teams gonna be better than Ohio State? I guess Penn State as well too, even though the rivalry is not there in the same way like we're saying for Michigan, but Big Ten wise, we're obviously going to be competing directly against them in a different type of way. But Texas is, I don't think, going to be in the mix this year, Chat. It is what it is. And the 12-team thing, like we're saying, is definitely, it not only gives you a bigger opportunity, but even in the playoffs itself. Will Howard, for example, took a step up and played better in the playoffs than he did in the regular season. And that was a big reason why Ohio State was able to win. But maybe Arch Manning has that if Texas is like the 9th team going into the playoffs. But I don't know if they're going to be, for them not to be a top 12 team again would be crazy. But for them, I think to win the national title again is even a different level. And if this is their quarterback play this year, and I think Arch Manning is going to get better, but maybe even to the levels to which he has to get better for them to win a national title are quite a bit in year one. And I think he's going to get there eventually. I think for the NFL stuff, it'll be, I have to keep saying it to convince myself, Chat. It is what it is. But I'll hypnotize myself into continuing to believe it eventually. You're witnessing it. So, hopefully it's working on you guys too. You're just going to be like, why am I so bought in on Arch Manning? Oh, that's right. The Rem and Sam live stream just kept repeating it over and over again. And I just can't help, it's just burned into my brain at this point. But that 7-1 is, definitely a little bit of a risky value. I don't know if I would be jumping all over that after week one. Alabama as well too. Again, DeBoer, there's probably going to be some uncertainty there. And I know I was giving Dabo a little bit of the benefit of the doubt earlier, but I guess if I have to put some money on it, I'm not the most confident in, just, okay, we'll lock it in. Dabo's teams are going to be right there at the end of the year. And maybe there's a Klubnik thing there as well too, just a little bit more prove it from Klubnik as it goes on. But I don't know. Again, 17-1 is probably decent value at this point in the season compared to maybe were they in like a 12-1 type range, especially with Klubnik's hype at the Heisman stuff. But the drop off from them to Miami is pretty crazy as well. And I guess we're probably going to see that at some point in the season. I don't know if that has to be a championship, conference championship level matchup if they're on the schedule for the regular season. I would imagine you would be. Oh, Chad, and you get the dap up from Michael Irvin on the sidelines. I mean, they were showing all the Miami legends. Of course, they're going to be out for this matchup, but it's just one of the great legendary schools, especially again the NFL swagger of it, because Alabama has a little bit of that for sure. I mean, obviously at some point, you coach long enough and you have a long enough tenure of these guys in these programs, you're going to have enough guys. But again, the badness of the guys that they have, Chad, like they just had the coolest guys that went to my. It's just I guess it is what it is, but just some of the best football players to root for, and some of the nastiest guys in a good way, like Ray Lewis, Michael Irving. Was Ed Reed and Ray Lewis were both Miami? Is that true? Hey, Chad. And then having between those three guys alone, like is there a cooler alma mater trio to have on the sideline than Ed Reed, Ray Lewis, and Michael Irvin? Hey, Chad. Like, I mean, no wonder they're winning tonight. This is the most motivated team in the history of sports. I mean, it's literally unfair. Marcus Freeman, I don't know how he could compete, Chat, from a speech level compared to Michael Irvin and Ray Lewis. And then, just Ed Reed in there on top. Jeremy Shockey. I don't know how Jeremy Shockey is with the motivational speeches. But Miami is up 14-7 at the half. So, I don't know, the entertainment value, the scoring, I guess, has been a little low in some of these games. This first half was pretty well played, though, and definitely feels like the second half is going to pick up from an action standpoint. So we're going to go to break real quick, Chat. We will, of course, be back. Second half of Miami versus Notre Dame underway. Miami 18th straight game with 10 plus points in the first half. So, get some points on the board early in the game, I guess. Mario Cristobal, good first half scheme, Chat. Hey, so what's the other stat going into last year? They lost 3 of the last 4, though, so I don't know what that means. But, we'll be right back, Chat, after this quick break to watch the second half of this game right after this. Okay, there we are, chat. We are back. Second half is still about to get fired up here. So let's see if we had any other major college football stuff that we may have missed as well. But I mean, what a warm up week, chat. Hey, yo, not even a warm up week, just full send right into football week. And I mean, as much as we love the NBA, and of course we always hold the NBA in our hearts, basketball in our hearts, as our favorite sport. Like, I mean, we can't not lie about like what is really, of course, America's sport. Obviously, the national rallying around of football is definitely there. And I mean, this year, chat, it does seem like, maybe we've needed it a little bit more than some of the years in the past. I mean, of course, we could argue about, year to year, the craziness that we've had, basically all the 2020s at this point, because, we started off right with COVID. So, it's been, of course, a pretty eventful decade up until now. But again, there's just the national sort of rallying and bonding and just just the general, as much as even sort of the smack talk and we start talking about like toxic media and all that stuff. Like, those are actually, in a way, not good things to be arguing about. But if we're sitting here talking about the toxicity in sports media, like the sequence of events that has led us to be able to talk about those things, like, okay, there's some stuff that is working at the end of the day, and we can kind of enjoy the good stuff that's working because of something awesome that we're able to create, like a great football game, or just the environments that surround this episode. And again, the national rallying around that is definitely more so than in the NBA. The star power is there. I think the finals was fun. There's some good stuff that's happening. Baseball seems like it's trending in the right direction in some good ways. But again, to have football back is great as well. But Chad, we gotta just talk about results here at some point. Merrimack versus Kent State. Hey, yo, shout out. Definitely not a game that we had on in the background. Central Connecticut versus UConn. Whoa, Chad, I didn't even know there was Central Connecticut. Is that a rivalry? I would have thought if it was a rivalry, there would be like a basketball history there at some point. But no, that's first ever time I've seen a football matchup. But again, never seen them on the court as well. Iowa versus Albany. Speaking of the home state, hey, yo, Chad, they are right back on track to have a typical Iowa season. Of course, we did have to check out their box score to see if it was going to be good vibes when we got back in town tomorrow. But it did seem like this is going to be a perfect Iowa quarterback for him, Chad. They won the game 34-7. Mark Gronowski, shout out. I don't know what his hype levels were going into the season, his high school transfer recruitment, all the different stuff, but he was 8 for 15 for 44 yards and a touchdown. So, I mean, perfect Iowa quarterback stat line to get the season started there and allowing the run game to flourish. 11 carries, 122 yards for Xavier Williams, 15 for 69 for Terrell Washington Jr. I mean, speaking of guys, going 20 or more crazy run games, 47 as well from Patterson. I guess Gronowski had 11 carries for 39 yards. Hey, yo, I don't know if there's some sack yardage bringing. Pause. I don't know if there's some sack stuff bringing the. Anyway, that's gonna be crazy either way. Some sack stuff weighing him down. Hey, yo, chat. It is what it is. I guess bringing the numbers down, but either way, still definitely getting a lot of usages there compared to through the air. So the receiving stuff is gonna be tough this year, chat, for the Iowa guys. Hopefully, there's nobody that is, looking to catch passes. Hopefully, these guys just love blocking over at Iowa. The 49ers maybe need to be looking at some of the Irish receivers. 1 for 13 was their lead receiver, Jacob Gill. Is that a running back? That might be a tight end. I don't know. But we've got Caden Whitgen with 1 catch, 2 yards. He is the guy that was able to haul in the 1 receiving touchdown that they had. So did Gronowski have running touchdowns as well too? Let's see. He did have a rushing touchdown. Williams, of course, had 1. And Hank Brown somehow had 3 carries for -3 yards, but a touchdown as well. His longest carry of the game was 1 yard, which probably was that touchdown. So just other 2 carries. Did he go like minus? I guess he couldn't have gone -1, and then 1. That math doesn't work there. But over the course of the game, that is definitely what happened. And you see, of course, the defense, as you would expect, did play well. But I guess they did give up some good runs here to some of the running backs. Minimal carries overall, not necessarily ton of opportunity for the Albany guys, but you do have a run of 27, a run of 19, and a run of 12. So I don't know if that's later in the game when, it's a little bit put away. Maybe we need to look into that as well, too. But something to keep an eye on if you can run on Iowa. And I guess here, Chad, we got to just keep focusing on Ohio State, I guess, because they are unfortunately also the defending national champion and probably going to be the number one ranked team after this week as well, too, after, of course, taking down the number one ranked team. But like we were saying, they were scheming up some open pass and stuff versus them, and I do think that you could run on them as well, too. Arch Manning was definitely mobile. Wisner, the running back for Texas, Quintravian Wisner, 16 for 80. It's not like a crazy stat line. CJ Baxter, 10 for 40. He was consistently, again, as simple as it may sound, moving forward on some of his rushes. So, again, it's not crazy overall offense, obviously, for Texas, but 37 for 166 is not bad. Ohio State was only 31 for 89. And again, saying 13 for 20, 126 and a touchdown, but definitely some drops. And maybe focused on Jeremiah Smith. I guess him kind of, like we're saying, maybe continuing to get some other guys involved. We'll have to continue with that. But you get the long pass to Carnell Tate, and it kind of evens everything out as well, too. So I would imagine that they still continue to be a playoff team. But again, I think Michigan, chat, I don't know if it's a game where we walk away. I'm scared, maybe big picture, that again, Sayan is a good, unfortunately, Sayan's a good quarterback. Ohio State's got another one. Ryan Day, he must be good at his job. But I don't know, Chad. Fortunately, I don't know if the Ohio State guys are locked into the Remington pod. So I guess we're safe saying this at this point. But I'm not as scared of Ohio State as we've been in the past. Even again, last year obviously was definitely one of the biggest upsets in the history of the rivalry. So I guess we weren't necessarily even scared of Ohio State because we were just we were back to just being in a different tier. We were like, okay, well, we're obviously not going to win this game. And then it's like, wait a second, what's happening? But this year, we're on the outside. We're right on the edge of that playoff run. So there's still good team expectations for the team, but we're not projected to be in that tier, obviously, of what Ohio State's looking at. But again, still going into the season, you would imagine a competitive game. And looking at it right now, definitely a team that schematically I think we could have some good advantages against if we can get that run game pass balance, continuing to be as strong as it's been. Because I think, as unfortunate as for Ohio State as well too, just the schemes that we've had, and as much as it's been with Harbaugh, I think Moore's going to keep some of that Harbaugh level stuff, and obviously, maybe even increase it when Moore's been in the head coaching role for Harbaugh. Those were the games when we were just running crazy amounts and not even, he's just like, well, we don't even need McCarthy to throw in these games. We're just going to run it 100 times. But the play action, physicality up front, slow grind way that we've been able to win the games against Ohio State, and the way that, has opened us up to some big plays in those games as well, too, I think has just been a really bad matchup for him. And those kind of high-flying teams, going toe-to-toe, that's where Ohio State kind of thrives in a way as well, too. That's what's kind of impressive about that, that Georgia team that was able to win. Going back and looking at how good C.J. Stroud might be as an NFL quarterback and the way he was able to produce against that Georgia defense, but them able to score actually with that Ohio State team was pretty impressive as well, too. But that would be a situation, maybe, we'll see this year what their offense is able to look like overall. But in theory, a Ryan Day-led team, that would be a situation where I'd be a little bit more afraid. And honestly, in the past as well, I would have thought we would have had to gone in matchup against them a little bit. Maybe that's more Urban Meyer, head coach, Ryan Day, offensive coordinator. And, you can kind of run Ryan Day's schemes with Urban Meyer's sort of big picture stuff going on there from the head coaching spot. But I would have thought maybe we'd had to lean into what they were doing a little bit more to actually, if you can't get a win, or if you can't beat them, then maybe just join them schematically. But it does seem like now the counterbalance is actually, been something that's been effective against them in the last couple of years. And this year, if we have that same recipe, I think this is a good team to have it against as well, too. So I know the fact that I'm actually sitting here confident in week one against a matchup against Ohio State means, one, we're going to drop a game early in the season that doesn't matter as well, too. And again, it's just not going to have the same impact, but I think for a team with our expectations, it's a little bit more brutal as well. And, as long as maybe playing well is important compared to having an Arch Manning level performance, which again, not going to drop him out of the playoff ranking. But in terms of us being uh, locked in for that type of playoff spot, we don't have necessarily a ton of leeway with our wins. But if I am confident, then that means I'm probably going to end up jinxing us later in the year. But regardless, I would still go with saying that I think that Michigan is not a bad bet at this point in the regular season. But speaking of bets, Chad, I want to look at some NFL bets because make no mistake, again, we were the one of the newer people in the circle at the wedding, so there was a second where it's like, we just warm up to the crowd for a second, and the FanDuel definitely helps keep you occupied while you're I guess I don't know, some people probably are just like, let me just dive right into the social scene and see what's going on. I guess we're okay with hanging back for a second, chat. Hey, yo, are we like a fourth quarter Peyton Manning, just like what's happening? Fourth quarter comeback, all of a sudden, we just 3 drives in a row, and now we're putting up points. But, yeah, we do have to have a little bit of a momentum build, I guess, in that type of way. But we do have to, I guess, scroll to FanDuel real quick and see what the odds are. But let me just double check and make sure there wasn't anything major to mention, because we did have to make fun of Iowa for throwing for 44 yards again in a win. Shout out. But otherwise, I think this being listed like this would be most of the bigger games up here as well. I guess I should mention the Tennessee guy did look pretty impressive as well. I don't know if Syracuse is going to be a feisty team this year, but that Heupel offense, of course, is just geared for being an explosive big play offense. So when it does connect and it is working well, it just looks impressive. It's again designed to have impressive plays. But obviously, as weird as that sounds, but he was able to execute some of that deep ball stuff looking pretty impressive, and just the arc and the height on some of his throws. There was a little bit of like Hendon Hooker stylistic, like his throws type stuff that seems similar there. So I know 274 is not crazy stats. I don't know if they went a little bit light later in the game, but I saw a couple of his highlights and was like, okay, Heupel's offense is obviously great. And I don't know if that Tennessee defense, they gave up, 26 to Syracuse. I don't know if that's concerning or not. But maybe they're, again, just a feistier team, and you only need to be the 12th team, I guess, like we're saying, to make the playoffs. Though the list, again, does get shorter than you would expect. It's not like everybody's going to be in. But I was looking at some NFL odds. So do we have to parlay our NFL odds with these conference futures? So we're definitely not going to bet Michigan to win the conference, because that's an automatic jinx. But Iowa State to win the conference at this point, and Florida State, that Florida State's going to mess that up. So Florida State on 11-1 is a little bit of a risk, but I gotta say, Chad, Iowa 7-1. I feel like we're paying rent in a couple of months when that hits. I don't know if I've ever been more confident in giving out advice, but lock it in, chat. Rocco Beck, best quarterback in the Big 12 early on. It is what it is. But let's look at some of these performance futures here, because there was some interesting ones to see. I guess just to start with the passing leaders. And again, we may not always, sometimes the stats versus what actually happens with impact versus the vibes, we're not always saying because we're betting it over and under it matches with what we think overall the impact of the season is going to be. Like Aaron Rodgers is a perfect example, Chad. Like we're sitting here scrolling through FanDuel, and not only are we trying to, warm up socially to an event, but we also got to, we got to make a little money back for this trip. It is what it is. It's like we were counting on, yes, saving smartly. We've known the wedding was obviously, I don't know if we can say we were saving smartly, but at least trying to save a little bit, knowing that this was, on the calendar. But we were also like, obviously we're going to do so well betting in the 2025 sixth season for the NFL that the trip's just going to pay for itself. We just one flight looking at over-unders, obviously we're going to make all this money back. But Aaron Rodgers' over-under for passing yards this year is 3,100 yards. Last year it felt like, shout out, Chad. Again, it is what it is. It's not like he's a peak of his powers. He's a little bit older as well, too. So I don't know if that makes it fair. But there is a definite excuse that you can make just from a performance standpoint as well, Chad. Age does matter. But he still got to 3,600 yards last year. 3,800 yards. last year. He got to, I guess, 3,600 the year before in Green Bay. Obviously, had that early Achilles injury that year in the Jets. The 42 chat is wild. Like, he's gonna be crazy old. So I guess the question would be whether or not he plays all of the games. But he is also, again, in a situation where he doesn't have a young quarterback necessarily backing him up as well too. I don't even know who the Steelers backup is. So they were, kind of out of options anyways by the time they went to Aaron Rodgers. I mean, it was to the point where, kind of earlier in the offseason, you were knowing that it felt like that was the direction. It was like, okay, this is what's going to end up being the only option left for him is to go in this direction. But then it got to a point where, again, it was like, okay, this is literally the only move left for kind of both of these players / the player and the team, Rodgers and the Steelers. Do they have Mason Rudolph back, but he might be hurt. I don't know if he's not on an IR. I guess, wait, who is on IR? Will Howard is on IR. Ayo. So Will Howard might be the guy, Chad. Like, if Aaron Rodgers was just, it was clear that the Tomlin winning streak record is going to be broken and then the playoffs are out of reach, then maybe they just go Will Howard and just see. But Skylar Thompson and Mason Rudolph, again, are literally, if Rodgers gets hurt or you just, it's Crimson Tide, you just got a mutiny on the bounty type situation. You just have to change the quarterback. Like, things go so bad. Rodgers is just like, we need to launch the missiles now. It's like, okay, I guess we're going with Skylar Thompson at quarterback when that happens. But they're committed to Rodgers as the starter. So again, I don't know if that means that they're going to win 10 games, but can Rodgers get back to 3,200 yards from a passing standpoint? Like, do we have to do math, chat? Hey, yo, should we have actually located our phone on the last break? It is what it is. I think I know. I remember where it's at now, chat. We have it plugged in the corner. Okay, give me a second. Quickest break ever, chat. We got to go get the phone off the outlet. We'll be right back. Okay, chat, we're back. Not only do we grab the phone, we were able to do the math in that quick of a break. Yes, we were able to divide. And did the math for 16 games. We gave him 1 game injury, if that's the case. Maybe just he thinks a little Achilles tweak. If he goes 16 games, it's 200 yards a game for him to get the over. If it's 17 games, that's going to be probably, I have quick math in the 180-ish range. Yeah, 188. So just a little bit of a drop off there, which honestly, I could definitely see him in that 180 yards per game, which again is why that over under is at 31.5. But just on the fact that last year alone, he was able to get to 3,800 yards, that is quite a drop off. And I don't know if their run game as well is going to be just a go-to thing where if the offense is not functioning, then at least they just like, okay, well, now we're going to run the football. Worst case scenario. His lowest stats season ever, 9 games, again, 1 game, but 7 games, 1,600 yards, 9 games, 2,500 yards. But on a per game basis, let's see here what we've got. 109 in 2 games. So 217 in 2022. It was that last year in Green Bay. And he was, again, like 3,600 yards that year. So he could even still be 210 yards a game, which is not even, again, that great, but still puts him on the over for this year. So it's not great odds either, minus 114. It's not going to make you rich, but it would be an interesting thing to throw into a parlay if you wanted to make yourself feel gross. Pause. After making a bet, if you're already going to feel bad about placing bets, just place bets on Aaron Rodgers overs going into the 2025-26 season. But that's just such a crazy low number, especially now that, again, it's just if he gets hurt, that's done. But if the Steelers are committed to him and they just have to start him every game, he's probably going to end up getting that number. So that is definitely one to at least keep an eye on and add into the bet slip, and maybe just more prediction than actually, you know, end up securing the number as well too. They had Bryce Young again, really low, not great odds, but 3,200 yards did seem manageable, but he has been a little bit in and out with health. And as much as we hope that Panthers team is good again, we did our drill of drafting guys, best guys in the league, assembling that team. We ended up leaving the Panthers off. They still have some guys that could ascend to be, really good, maybe Pro Bowl level players. But do they have like Derek Brown is a pretty blue chip level player. We assume again, like JC Horn, there's some good guys. But for them to be a 8-win, good stats team, we'll see if that actually ends up happening. It's more of a, we hope it happens versus let's actually start betting it. But the Cam Ward over chat, he is also at 3,200 yards. Again, minus 114, but that is actually one that you could throw into a parlay and actually feel good about it. Young up-and-coming player that you actually, again, all the reasons maybe you don't want to root for Aaron Rodgers, but just rooting for a player with, his future ahead of him is more fun as well too, compared to sometimes some of the shout out to the veterans. I guess if once we become a veteran, we're gonna be like, hey, veterans are cool. What's wrong with veterans? But at this point, I guess the next generation's better, chat. So 3,200 for Cam Ward is much more enticing. But I would think 3,500 at least if he's gonna be in that rookie of the year conversation, or again, what we're hoping from, or expecting for the way the vibes have been from training camp and from the preseason. He's going to be making plays, and there's going to be a consistency, a competency, I guess I should say, at the quarterback spot that maybe they didn't have last year. And again, for a good rookie quarterback to go in and put up 3,600 yards in their first season, I think is probably a pretty achievable number. And he was the number one overall pick, so I don't know if he has the number one overall rookie quarterback over under. Let me see. Who else is even going to... I guess nobody else is even going to start. Do we have a Jackson Dart option? I guess don't even have Jackson Dart listed as a potential choice. So he's the only other one as well, too, that's listed as a week one starter that is going to have the most games to get to that number as well, too. So to me, Cam Ward at 3,200 is a pretty easy over bet at this point. And to be honest, I do kind of like the Titans as a crazy division bet as well too. I don't know if we just pivot over to that real quick since we're looking at it, but the AFC East does feel, pretty safe for the Bills at this point. I guess it would be more so the Patriots just have an awesome season and win like 12, 13 games, or the Jets or one of the other teams just really ascends. I don't think the Bills are going to be, of course, a 9 or a 10 win. And maybe they, things are rocky, they're a 10-win team. But the bar in the AFC East maybe is a little bit lower. So I feel like that, at minus 260, they feel pretty safe, obviously, to win that division. AFC North is a little bit more open in a way. The Bengals at plus 240 doesn't seem bad. But again, with that defense, it is what it is. I guess the Rodgers thing, like we're saying, if the defense is so good and he's able to put up like 16 a game, and then the Ravens are just up and down with injuries this year, maybe there's a path, but I don't like that as a crazy division winner. The AFC South, again, that one would feel more likely that a team overachieves and gets a division win than, like we're saying, a Texan fall off season. The Texans definitely took a little bit of a step back last year. Stroud didn't have the same media darling effect that he did in year one, but they're still the overwhelming, best team vibes wise in the AFC South at this point, with some of the future stuff and the instant year one stuff. Ooh, tough run for Miami, chat. Second and goal. Is he in? Is this 21-7? Is this Miami starting to pull away? I mean, they haven't signaled yet, but it does seem like he's pretty over the goal line. I guess, are they going to rule him down? There we go. The line judge finally walks in with the signal. 20-7. We'll see what happens here on the extra point. But again, the Texans could have a really good, like a correct the path type season, still be competitive in the playoffs, win 10, 11 games. And the Titans maybe, could they win 12? I guess that'd be a little bit rich. So maybe them to make the playoffs is a better bet, and maybe bet like a plus 7, 8 win alternate spread over. So I don't know. Can we parlay that, chat? Let's see here. Do we still have alt win totals as an option. +8 regular season wins. We don't have, same game parlay. There's the logo, chat. So +8, it's a little rich for the Titans. Like we're saying, if they're I guess 7, what's the difference between 7 and 8 if they're going to be a borderline division winner? So +210, +210 for them to win 8 regular season games, at least 8 regular season games. We could commit to the 10, I guess, but that at least gives us 8 and 9 as an option. And then they got to be 2 to 3 to 1 at least to make the playoffs. 4 to 1 to make the playoffs. So let's see here, Chad. Unfortunately, oh no, we can parlay both of these together at +385. I guess again they kind of know what we're doing here, getting tricky. So really, the best bet then is just bet them to make the playoffs at +410 because I actually do like that better than win the division. That's still really good odds. And again, the difference between that and +8 games is about the same difference than them to win the division. It's an extra 2 to 1 on the odds there, even though 6 to 1's obviously not bad, but that's a good split the difference and still get really good value as well too. And to be honest, I do kind of like the Raiders at +290 to make the playoffs as well. I think that division, unfortunately, is probably the toughest division in the NFL this year, maybe the most well-coached division in the NFL. But Pete Carroll, year one, again, good vibes are definitely happening. There is, like we said before, that random assortment of that high-end talent in the way that they're going to be able to rely on G&T and Bowers and then have closing players on defense like Crosby to make big plays. I think they're right in the mix. And as much as we love Harbaugh, and I actually don't want to bring myself to be picking against them as well, and you would assume that Herbert's baseline as a player is a playoff quarterback, but he's kind of proven over the last couple of years that there is some variance with him. And I know that we've said that that's been chalked up to coaching as well too. Shout out Brandon Staley. Hey, yo. But, even last year they missed the playoffs with Harbaugh and Herbert. And again, if Herbert, there is still a world where he's overachieving with Staley, and we can still think that Staley's holding him back from that extra level, but they're in the playoffs and just a little bit more competitive. And, is that a little unfair for Herbert? Maybe. But again, that I think realistic possibility is still definitely there. So I think that the difference between Geno and Herbert is closer on the quarterback scale than Herbert and Mahomes. I don't know if that's the hot take of the pod. I don't know what other hot takes we may have accidentally, but we may have said without realizing they're hot takes. But I don't know if that's a legacy thing as well too versus just a current talent thing. But I think current talent as well, and just like a in-game confidence thing. If I have Harbaugh and Geno Smith this year, and Herbert and Harbaugh and Geno Smith and Herbert and Herbert. Hey, there we go. We got it, chat. I would feel almost as confident, and maybe again a smidge more with Herbert, but way more with Mahomes. And again, the difference is clear to me. So, and even Bo Nix at this point, even if Sean Payton maybe is a little bit of a coaching step up from Harbaugh and Carroll at this point as well too. But I could see the Raiders. And again, are we saying that we're predicting the Raiders and the Titans to both make the playoffs? But at least having multiple options for the long shots is not bad as well. So if you were taking a couple swings in the AFC, those would definitely be the swings we're taking. Miami at +210 feels a little tough. In Indy at +205, I got to be honest, I don't know if, again, Arch Manning is the guy we're going to be competing for. Maybe that's 2027 draft. We have to look ahead another year. But, of course, another year where maybe a chaotic quarterback class and the Colts are going to be up at the top of the draft. But I think we're going to be probably fighting for the number one pick more than we are at the playoffs. Like, do we have odds on the number one pick? I think maybe we'd still probably be in that 2 to 1 range, but I would rather bet that than us to make the playoffs. And maybe, again, we're top 5 pick. So maybe us top 5 pick versus us to make the playoffs is what we're actually saying than legitimately like number one, because we might just be a little bit too talented for that just overall in the roster. But the quarterback spot may be enough to put us in a spot where we're, again, a little bit more on the bottom half of the league. So I could definitely see the AFC South being Texans, Titans, Jags, Colts as well too. And the problem is I think the Jags-Colts thing is difficult to figure out. It really is just the fact that, we're assuming that at least Trevor Lawrence can continue to be in the mix for a teens level quarterback, whereas I think Daniel Jones is maybe trending in a different direction. So AFC South exact order is not a bad special, I guess, to dabble in as well too, because you're gonna get decent odds on that. So Tennessee at number one, with Houston at number two, Jacksonville at number three, and Indy at number four, is 27 to 1, chat. So that would be obviously, Tennessee winning the division, a crazy long bet. But if we went Houston, Tennessee, Indy, and Jacksonville, 1, 2, 3, 4, that is 16 to 1. And then Houston, Tennessee, Jacksonville, Indy is 15 to 1. So you could bet both of those, honestly. And I guess obviously we can't parlay them together, but you could do a little bit on both of those. And I feel like, you're pretty safe for whichever team is just kind of the bottom out team in the AFC South, and then give yourself room for the Titans to be a big step forward team, but the Texans to ultimately be, the best record team in the AFC South would not be bad as well. So if we really do like the Raiders, then an AFC West exact order would not be bad. I think it's going to be immediately just look for the ones with the Chiefs at the top of the division. But Chiefs, Raiders, Broncos, Chargers is not a bad long shot bet if it's there. That's, I guess, also in that 16 to 1 range. So I didn't know if we were going to get a 30 to 1 or something on that. So I guess maybe Chiefs, Broncos, Raiders, Chargers, that's only 10 to 1. So you get a little extra juice with the Raiders at that second place spot. I don't mind that, chat, because I think the Broncos are talented, but there is a veteran thing there where, is there a little bit of maybe some health questions? Are we sure that Hufanga and Greenlaw can be healthy all year against really top-end talented if everybody's locked in? But from an odds standpoint, the little bit of extra juice in the Raiders is not bad as well. And again, Geno, I guess, could be a health thing, but he's been pretty good at playing when he's been in the starting lineup the last couple years, and the Raiders' offensive line should be able to protect him enough, and I think he's smart enough to kind of stay healthy in a way as well too, with making some good decisions. So them at 16 to 1 is not bad as well, and kind of gives us a good safe range. We're not getting too crazy with our division order bets. So here, wait, let's get that one in the mix. Chiefs, Raiders, I guess Chargers, Broncos is also 16 to 1, but Chiefs, Raiders, Broncos, Chargers is the one that we actually want. Again, AFC East, we're probably not going to get great odds because it's going to be, Bills, Patriots, Jets, Dolphins is actually kind of what I would most likely think the order would be. So that's only 6 to 1. So maybe if you just want to kind of, be safe, lock in some funds, AFC South, AFC East, exact order. I guess maybe the Jets being a surprise team, Dolphins, Jets, Pats, or I guess Bills, Jets, Pats, Dolphins could be an interesting way to go. And I guess all the Bills first ones. Okay, so Bills, Jets, Pats, Dolphins, 10 to 1, a little bit extra if you want to get frisky. But I think Drake May, year 2 step forward, is going to be pretty inevitable. And in this division is going to be enough for them to be the second place team. Because you're thinking, I know that Miami could probably be the most talented offense if they're all healthy. But if you got Drake May versus Fields as individual quarterbacks that have to create for their guys, then again, I think the potential of Drake May in that spot is a little bit more upside there. And chat, the trailer for this last Conjuring does look pretty scary. Is this in theaters right now? Hey, this weekend. Hey, are we going to go be seeing the Conjuring movie this weekend? We might, chat. Again, we're getting into horror movies more, hopefully, and the Conjuring franchise is one that we're already kind of locked into anyway, so I'm not against the idea of just committing to it and just being like, hey, let's just go see this one in theaters and just, keep the streak going, because did the last one drop over COVID only on streaming, or did I just watch it on streaming just because? But I feel like I watched that one pretty early on as well, too. Maybe it was rented. I don't remember exactly. But this one might have to be a little trip down to the theater to get scared on the big screen, chat. Hey, I don't know if all the people in the theater are going to see me covered up with my blanket, just not watching. It is what it is. But, the AFC East does seem like a pretty boring one. Same with the AFC North as well too. Though maybe the Browns and Steelers. I know the Steelers defense may be too good, but if we're really buying up Shador stock, then maybe you go Browns Steelers. I guess that's only plus 950 as well too to get Ravens, Bengals, Browns, Steelers as the fourth place team. So I'd almost need double digit odds on that, at least in this 12 to 1 range, for sure, to start considering it. But that would not be a prediction, anyways, that I would be against considering. But it would be a little bit. Can they get good vibes ultimately from that quarterback spot more so than wins and immediate production? But Notre Dame not able to. Was that a fourth down attempt they just missed? Of course, we're over here just scrolling FanDuel, not paying attention. But 21-7 again. Is that in deep in their own territory, not committing to the points? So I know that at this point in the game, maybe you're more inclined to try to catch up a little bit more and not thinking about the other time that you missed. But now you're talking about a touchdown worth of field goals that you've given up at this point. If you have both your field goals earlier on, then or was it Miami was the one that ran the fake field goal, not Notre Dame? Okay, wait a second, chat. Recalibrating. They would have been the one that had the turnover early in the scoring position. So I guess if Miami had that, it'd be 24-7, even a little worse at this point. But Notre Dame did have that fumble, I guess would be the turnover. And that's, I guess, what set Miami up. Hey, yo, chat, we remember the first quarter now. Hey, yo, it is what it is. But, yeah, they have, of course, like we're saying, had a couple opportunities left on the field. At this point, not the smoothest start to the season for Freeman, who, again, definitely trended in the right direction, leading his team to the national title. I don't know if there's a little bit of a favorable path there as well. But again, this is now him ascending to the top of having kind of established, or can he continue to establish, like we're saying, a program at Notre Dame. There's been a little bit of a rebuild. He's proven that he can get his team up into those competitive levels. But the year-to-year competing against the top teams consistency is, obviously the last step for him as a head coach. Do we have an offensive lineman down for Miami? Hey, yo, it's looked like he is working his way up, trying to fight through it. But just, of course, the injury itself, not great. But great third down stop, chat. Sets him up for a fourth down here and gets the ball back as well. I don't know what Carson Beck's second half stats has been. I didn't realize that he was almost 150 yards passing in the first half as well too. So, chat. And it was the guy that the running back rolled up on the tackle, and it kind of was the thing that, I guess the running back slips, which ultimately stops the play, of course, but slips, goes down early, and rolls up on the offensive tackle or offensive lineman, is kind of course, a double loss for Miami on that possession. But at least you, of course, if you're Freeman, now you're saying, we're still maybe in good field goal range. This is why we do those type of things. And he is very advanced analytical like that. And they do get a favorable bounce on the punt as well, too. So I guess a little bit of a rollback. They'll have it about 36 here, their own 36. He does, again, he's analytical. He will, play for those touchdowns and think of the score more in those type of possessions. But sometimes those gambles are a little bit riskier against, even the last level like Ohio State or something like that. I get for just traumatized by that team winning the national championship last year. But I think maybe the Notre Dame thing as well too, because Brian Kelly was kind of in and out of being an elite head coach, like we were saying over there at Notre Dame, and he got his times of ascending up to being that national championship level, but they didn't necessarily year to year back it up in the same type of way. So we're hoping Marcus Freeman backs it up. Hey, yo, chat, don't clip that one out. But just we're hoping he has consistent success. I guess to the degree to which he's not affecting Michigan winning the national title, but he is obviously a fun new head coach as well too. NFC East. The Eagles do seem, back to the NFC East chat, they do seem like the safe bet, of course, to win the division. The Commanders, Giants, Cowboys is an interesting shuffle because Jaden Daniels is, of course, the best quarterback, but I think the Giants have the best roster, honestly. and it's more the best units, probably the defensive line. But then you have Malik Neighbors on offense. It's a pretty good balance. The offensive lines from the rest of the teams, I guess Dallas has had some good moments for sure, good players. But I don't know if the offensive lines from the other two teams are good enough to where you would necessarily lock them in over the Giants at this point, even though the Giants have definitely had their struggles as well. So there's definitely a New York is the number 2 team in the NFC East at the end of the day conversation. Philly, New York, Washington, and Dallas is 13-1. That's honestly not bad, Chad. That gets us in that teen range that we have in our 16-1 for the other bets. Philly, Dallas, New York, Washington is 16-1. That's not bad. Dallas offense is, of course, obviously pretty high powered, and maybe Dak is just consistent regular season quarterback as well. I don't know if the Giants would jump up to win the division. Giants, Philly, Washington, Dallas, 45-1. Hey, yo, Jackson Dart would really be balling out. Can we parlay that with Jackson Dart Rookie of the Year? Now we're making money, chat. Now we're really bleeding the sports books dry at this point. But Philly, New York, Dallas, in Washington might be an interesting one as well, too. I know we wouldn't want to have Washington as the 4th team in that division, but if it's the one we don't want to happen, then maybe we have to bet on it just because then it's the most likely one to happen. But that would be 22-1. So I don't know. We'd maybe trust Jaden Daniels a little bit too much for that. But Dak definitely has more weapons this year if Pickens is around. So them to be over Washington just offense to offense wouldn't necessarily be surprising. And again, I know they just traded Parsons, but I don't know if Washington's defense is a little bit more balanced, but I don't know if it's levels above Dallas's defense. Maybe Dallas' defense is way bad this year though, and that's what really affects them. So I guess the 13-1 Philly, New York, Washington, Dallas is probably the bet we like most out of the NFC East. The NFC North is interesting from a betting standpoint. I think the Lions and the Packers are both pretty highly, thought of teams. So I don't know if we'd get great odds on either of them to have good divisional finishes. But Chicago and Washington are definitely wildcard teams as well. And I know that, nobody has confidence in McCarthy to be a good quarterback, but we definitely have confidence in Kevin McConnell. And I know, again, Jordan Love may be a little bit of a different level in terms of the potential and the talked about standpoint. And we have seen a little bit more production from actually him playing as well, too, and being good. But LaFleur has proven to be a good quarterback coach and to get good production out of his quarterbacks, and he's had good quarterbacks as well, too. But McConnell, I think, is in that range, and maybe is, McCarthy as well, too. There is that expectation of he needs to be a franchise guy and then also needs to be able to take the Vikings to the Super Bowl this year as well, too, to live up to everything. But also just, the bigger picture of him being just an NFL quarterback. Like, I think in a Kevin McConnell-led system, he can do that. So could they be the 2nd or 3rd team of the division? I guess, for sure. And I know the Lions are, like we're saying, an immensely talented roster, but they've lost those coaching guys that we really, really love. And I think at this point, McConnell offensively is the best offensive coach between those two guys, and Flores defensively is the best defensive coach between those two teams. So I know the roster, like we're saying, is still a little bit more in favor of Detroit, but I would be more a fan of Minnesota staff. I guess, like I'm saying, I would have to debate it over the Detroit or the Green Bay staff. And I guess, I'm still debating Detroit versus Green Bay as being the number 1 team. And then, Minnesota, I guess if I'm picking Detroit to win now, I have to try to find the case over them versus Green Bay. And to be honest, again, I like it more over Detroit than Green Bay as well, too. So maybe the order that I am thinking then is Green Bay, Minnesota, Detroit, Chicago. So again, it's unfortunate for Chicago that it's such a tough division. But if we're committing to the Detroit slide, could they be the team that slides out of the playoffs? And you would have all of the other 3 quarterbacks in the division being younger quarterbacks with the potential ahead of them versus Goff. Maybe he's in a part of his career where the trend starts to go a different direction. But I don't know if he's in his washed years quite yet. Oh, another great catch, this time by a Notre Dame receiver. So CJ Carr's made some nice passes. Again, the offense has stalled on some of the drives. But again, the analytics, if they get a touchdown here, a 1-score game as the 3rd quarter winds down, oh, chat, the fingertips unbelievable. And there was a moment, the gloves, Chad, there was a moment in the last game, too. This is another Jeremiah Smith thing that, Chad, we're looking for all these things as Michigan fans. What are the bad things that Ohio State did in the performance where they won? But he went and switched his gloves out at halftime of that game. And again, he had some of those drops. So I don't know if it's just a mental like reset, get new gloves, cleanse the palate or whatever. But also like you're supposed to be a generational receiver. Why are we relying on the gloves to make a catch? That's a little bit Odell there. And again, Odell at the peak of his powers. Who wouldn't want to have him? But the career is a little different than some of the other legacy receivers that we had as well too, and it does look like that he maintained possession as well too on the catch. So I don't think they're reviewing it. Well, I think they maybe are, but I don't think they're going to overturn it. It does look like it was close there, but yeah, his hands are underneath, chat. Even when he makes contact with the ground, I think he is clean catch all the way through. So Green Bay, if we're not necessarily going to commit to Minnesota being the number one team in the division, Green Bay would be the other obvious team if it's not Detroit. So Green Bay, Minnesota, Chicago, Detroit at 4 is 19-1. I mean, yeah, I would need that at least 20-1 plus if I'm going to have Detroit as the fourth team in the division. Green Bay is the fourth team in the division. And I guess now they have Parsons, so they have a blue chipper on defense. That would have been probably the one thing that we would have said. I guess, and we're not paying respects to McKinney in the secondary at that point. But between those two guys, you imagine the regular season power is going to be crazy as well too. Shout out for the cameraman, for the audience member that he just picked out there. Shout out to the guy that just stood up and blocked the view of who I think the cameraman was going for. But whatever, chat. Hopefully IT were re-recording the game. Yeah, it is what it is. But okay, wait a second. We got to focus on bets here, chat. Not get distracted by the audience. Jeremiah Love to the outside, first down the hurdle. Oh, chat. If we were in the home studio, we would be going crazy right now. That was a 10 out of 10 hurdle. That's as clean as you're going to get right there. Oh, chat. Holding. We've never been more bummed out for a Notre Dame penalty in our life. Holy cow. Not even the keeping this game competitive, putting them in scoring range, just erasing that highlight would have been easily one of the top 10 runs of the season to start off. And Barkley, of course, unfortunately now all hurdles in the near future have to be compared against that Saquon Barkley hurdle from this past season. But anytime a guy gets a hurdle and still can run after a hurdle, that's a 10 out of 10. And that's exactly what happened right there. So I don't think the highlights, again, we're recording the game. What a stretch, chat. Hot audience member, Jeremiah Love hurdle. We're just going to go out and clip this on YouTube and just put this on the Rem and Sam page. But don't forget about this moment from the game. It was all overturned by a penalty. And then CJ Carr missing on the outside. The penalty on the Miami player, though, bails him out, and now they're back. Reset the downs, move the football back to the original spot almost. Restart it all over again, Chad. But okay, wait a second. Restart the conversation for the NFC North. So we got to find Packers, Vikings, Bears, Lions, 11-1. So not bad. We're getting increasingly safer and safer with our picks, but we're kind of in decent money-making range, I think, for all of them. So, and I'm not necessarily saying that these are our official picks, but these are definitely probably the best, safe / this is trying to find the right intersection on the graph between safe and risky. I don't know if that's just gambling the entire time, but obviously the best odds are probably the best odds and the ones you look at and go, yeah, I see the case for that most likely going into the regular season, whatever. But this is make a little bit of money, but we're not going, we're trying to actually be realistic here with what's going on from a divisional standpoint. Love this time. The defense is ready for it. The defense is ready for it and not able to get a big gain. Nearly 2 minutes left in the third quarter, so still enough time for them to cut it to one score and feel comfortable. But you don't know if that starts maybe messing with the Freeman play calling mental stuff going on as well too, with them getting risky on the last play. I don't know if that makes them safer or more inclined to take chances if we actually get like a fourth quarter thing going on up on the scoreboard as well. But we're just committing to the run, chat. Love, he hurdles again. This time he tries two defenders. The space is not even there for it. Now he's just a flying crazy tackle at this point by the Miami guys. Stay safe, Jeremiah Love. I know it's running back, so that's not going to happen. But Holy cow. So I guess you gave Carr a chance in the last time, and it did result in a penalty. But I mean, at this point, obviously relying on Love is the key. So, we did all this Heisman talk chat. We were talking quarterbacks. I think, if anything, we've really exposed where our mindset, we're really ready to go from a mindset standpoint, from an NFL spot, because we do, of course, follow, I mean, as you would expect, college football from a Michigan standpoint, but as well, also from a draft standpoint, who's going to help the Colts? Who are the players we need to be watching? Who are the teams and the players that we need to keep an eye on for the season? And I think we're going to have an opportunity to be keeping a close eye on some of these quarterback prospects. And again, maybe not this year, but next year, just this little range here might be guys that are in contention for being on Indianapolis. But again, if we were talking about Heisman, I guess Jeremiah Love has to be a name that we have to look up as well, too, because Notre Dame is, going to be battling here for top 5. If, they're winning, obviously, this game, we're really projecting a lot on this drive. And it's CJ Carr with the run on 3rd and 5 up the middle. Hey, yo, chat. We're not necessarily, we're looking like Notre Dame fans here. I guess we're just, more fans of exciting plays and close games and big moments and, seeing which guys emerge as the clutch guys. But, Notre Dame is the team driving, so that's the team, I guess, getting us hyped up in the moments. Let's see where Love is at here from a stat standpoint. Again, I guess the wins and losses do matter. So yeah, the result is going to affect what happens from an award standpoint this season for sure. So I guess we were saying Beck definitely has the potential to continue to lead Miami to national championship hopes as well. I don't know if he gets his name in the Heisman conversation. 18 for 25, 189, and 2 touchdowns. I guess if he plays a really clean year and they win a lot of games, then he would definitely be in the conversation, because they don't have a running back that is stealing the show. And right now, Price is outgaining Love on the ground. So unfortunately, that run that he had that was white back was the best run of the night for him so far. And maybe they haven't done the best job of the telegraphing and disguising the play calls when Love is in the game versus when Price is in the game, and the team is able to sell out when Love is in the backfield. But at least now, with Carr running a little bit, there's some question marks. So a personal foul here on Miami is going to give them a fresh set of downs. 1st and goal. I don't know how closely that moves them in here. Are they right up on the goal line? Ooh, they might be, chat. Oh, no, we still got a little... Oh, no, what are we, inside the 2? Inside the 1? Yeah, chat. This is, speaking of Love, perfect spot for him to make a play. And is he related to Bryce Love? Or am I just doing the thing now where it's like they have the same last name, obviously, and they're athletes and they're both running back. They obviously have to be related. But speaking of scrolling through the Graham chat, there was a highlight of a guy returning kicks whose name is Devin Hester Jr., and he's not related to Devin Hester. So a kick returner, his name's Devin Hester Jr., but he's just not related to the other kick returner named Devin Hester at all. So 1st and goal, Miami, 5 seconds left in the 3rd quarter. Wait a second. Did they call timeout? No, they're running the clock. What just happened there? I guess it's going to run to the end of the quarter, so it doesn't really matter that it stopped there for a second. But the 4th quarter is going to start with Notre Dame's 2nd and goal, Miami off of the major play on defense, making the stop. And they, again, have been really good in these short yardage situations. So I almost wonder if you do go Price here just to throw him off. And again, he's been able to get to the outside a couple times and make some plays. So I know we were just talking about Jeremiah Love for Heisman, but that's just because he had, one of the best runs of the day. And if his stats had continued to build, then it would have been an interesting thing to watch here. But let's take a quick break. We got 4th quarter of this game. Oh, wait a second, chat. We've got to clear some space for the pod. Oh, I'm just a floating head right now. Let me move the camera down. I guess we're going to break anyways. Sorry to the podcast people. We'll be back with that stream. Let me clear up some space. Let's get ready for the 4th quarter and see if Notre Dame is able to close out this drive and make this a competitive matchup as we are in commercial break waiting for the 4th quarter of this top 10 matchup. Up next. Testing 1, 2, 3. We are back, chat. Wait a second. The pod is not going again. Welcome back to the pod, people. Hey, sorry about that. We ran out of disk space there for a second, so there's a little chunk of the live stream cut out. I guess head over to the YouTube page if you're listening to this in the future when it's posted on the podcast pages. The full live stream, I guess, will be on the YouTube, but we'll of course match the two pieces together and get the full pod back up on the Spotify, Apple for you guys. But Notre Dame does take it in for the touchdown there. They do go outside. Was that a backup quarterback? I guess wasn't paying attention there. But not going with Love or the traditional run play, I think, is the smart move. At least trying on, was that second and goal? Because, again, the defensive line had been really tough in those short yardage situations for Miami. And, again, this is the most probably consistent college football we've watched. And like we were saying, that Texas-Ohio State game was not the most impressive game played. There was definitely some sloppiness early on. So, oh, wait a second, bootleg play. I just saw the guy running in at the end. So they go with the pass, not even the run on second down. Speaking of Pete Carroll, getting risky on the goal line. But, again, this is about the most we've watched the team in week 1, but Miami is going to be up there for impressiveness scale early on. And, again, they do have some consistency at quarterback that some other teams may not have, even if it is maybe a little limited on the upside compared to some of the others. But NFC South exact order, since there is good odds, and to be honest, Chad, I feel like we're kind of locked in on the exact order. I don't know if we're going to go 8 for 8, 6 for 6, or whatever we're betting here, but I think we might hit 1 or 2 of these, and that could definitely cover the rest of them as well, too. I like the odds range that we're going with. And I really am buying in on that AFC South one, so I'm kind of expecting that to cover us. If the Colts screw us and win the AFC South, I guess, then it works out as well, too. But the NFC South, we're buying in Atlanta stock, so I think it really is going to be, an Atlanta-Tampa battle for who's going to win the division. Tampa does have the consistency with Baker Mayfield and maybe a little bit more defensive upside as well, too, with some of the guys. I think their pass rush may be a little bit better. But like we were saying, the Falcons have invested in that. And if those guys are in a way surprisingly good, then their defense is definitely going to be on par and able to help them compete for that spot. So Atlanta, Bucks, I guess Saints, Panthers is 12-1. That's not a bad long shot bet. I guess if, you're going to bet the Saints be better than the Panthers, that's, I don't know, is that crazier than betting Bengals, versus Ravens, again, on the other end of the scale of it? I don't know if, again, the degrees of separation there are the same they're, far off for the relative teams. But if we were trying to find the Panthers as the third team, I guess Falcons, Bucks, Panthers, Saints, 7-1, that's maybe a safer option for our bets, not necessarily a big swing. So wait a second, what was this one? Now we're tempted back by the 12-1. Falcons, Bucks, Saints, Panthers. And again, there's always going to be a result. Maybe the division order hits the way I want it for the bet, but that doesn't mean this is the way I actually want to hit for this season. Like if I was to rank the emotional value of the way I wanted, again, the NFC South to finish, for example, I would probably actually pick, say, Falcons, Panthers, Bucks, Saints, and, shout out to the Bucks. But I would really like, again, a good Bryce Young season, Canales, them to continue forward. And the Bucks have had some good seasons recently. You've won the Super Bowl. The team overachieved the last couple years, even if it was, again, still just a feisty team. So, it's the Panthers fans' turn for the non-AFC South fan guy over here. But I guess that in itself is only 12-1 as well, too. So if we have a 12-1 option that we would want to happen, all 4 teams, and a 12-1 option that we think could happen, I think the thing could happen would be more like, because again, we're not gonna be totally happy as NFL fans. So maybe we can make a little bit of money on it. So maybe we get double screwed, and it's like, hey, pause. The one that we want to happen hits, and we didn't bet on it. Would be a little bit of a bummer in that type of way. But this is not bad either, and I know that's putting faith in Rattler over Bryce Young seems a little bit of a hot take at this point. But I think that the Saints defense could be as good as the Panthers defense this year if it's a little bit older as well too. But Canales over do they still have Dennis Allen? Who's even the Saints head coach at this point? I just like Canales over, whoever the Saints head coach would be. So I guess I would take the Panthers and maybe in that regard, and in a betting standpoint, would be okay with relying on that. Chat, I don't even know what this big parlay is that we've got in the mix here. I guess we do have some of these division order bets in this parlay. So this parlay is up to 4,800 plus 48,677. I don't even know what the numbers are at this point, chat. Hey, yo. But for the AFC South, the Panthers to actually win the AFC or the NFC South, 16-1. Panthers, Falcons, Bucks, Saints is not quite enough. Maybe the NFC South is a stay away. If we're staying away from some of the AFC divisions, then we can definitely stay away from some of the NFC South. So I guess those would be the division exact orders that we were kind of vibing with. I guess you could get Tennessee is 7-1 at this point to win the AFC South. There just should be a just like, okay, you think you're gonna have a better season than the Colts, but just a Colts fans are mad bet going into the season. Can we get that one? I don't know. But season leaders, just the individual stats, Prescott to lead the league in passing yards plus 750. Mahomes at 8-1 seems a little bit just like, of course, a little popular, even though, I expect him to still have a good year, but lead the league in pass yards, maybe just because of a run game, a little bit of a lack of that type of yards could lead to that as well. Again, Goff with the Lions offense, you would expect him to still have the weapons to be able to produce. But Penix at 17-1, Williams at 20-1, Jordan Love at 20-1 is not bad. Geno at where was he at there, Chad? At 25-1. It does start getting to be a little crazy. I guess Jaden Daniels at 35-1 might be the long shot bet, honestly, that you have to go with. Kyler's not bad. Cam Ward to lead the league. Lamar to lead the league in passing yards, 40-1. It sounds like the best long shot bet, and he did get to 4,000 last year. But if somebody's going to be in the 4,400 yard range, I don't know if he quite climbs up there. Justin Field literally last with 100-1. Bryce Young 60-1. Bryce Young almost twice as good of odds as Justin Fields. I guess they're just going to be so committed to the run game that's going to hurt that as well too. And again, Jaden Daniels is going to have that mobility. But to be honest, McCarthy at 25-1 is not bad if he's cooking, chat, because speaking of weapons, he's going to have the best weapons. And I guess, again, he doesn't have any of the actual NFL baggage that some of these other guys have at this point. So Stroud at 14-1 is not bad. And I guess, to be honest, Baker at 13-1 is not bad as well too. They are probably going to have a better run game this year with Bucky Irving in the mix, but even still, he could be more of a 60-40 guy, 60 rush yards, 40 pass yards, or like a 60-50 kind of a 110 all-purpose yard type game guy, and a little bit more balanced. But with Rachaad White as well too, able to still take some of the receiving responsibility, maybe Baker at 13-1 is a good bet, but I'm not super sold on any of the quarterback options for leading the league at this point as well. So honestly, it would probably be Daniels just because of the talent, and Penix, and then Baker. Those three guys would be maybe the swings to take a chance on. Interceptions could be interesting. Baker's second interceptions. Cam Ward is first as a rookie. Trevor Lawrence at 11-1 is not bad, chat. Hey, yo. We might be making money on Trevor Lawrence interception bets. Jordan Love Stafford at 14-1 is not bad as well. I mean, Stafford could have like a 24-34 type season and just go crazy. 3rd and 7, Notre Dame gets the sack, chat. They gonna force the punt and get the ball back here with a chance to tie early in the fourth quarter. I don't know if this is gonna be the drive that happens, just because feels like we've seen this recipe before, but they at least have the opportunity now to tie it up, and probably going to get decent field goal position as well. Miami's only at about their 26 on the field, but McCarthy, unfortunately, is another one at 16-1 because, again, I don't think they have the backup. Sam Darnold's gone, so it's not like there's a veteran guy that could lead this team to a playoff success behind him in the same type of way. We could double check the roster, but again, I think he's going to play. So if it goes bad, maybe there's like a fake injury that they go with to try to protect the narratives around him if they need to. But They've otherwise got Carson Wentz and Max Brosner. So Brosmer, Ayo, so he's another, I guess, rookie Minnesota. Is that like the sleeper, just this guy out of nowhere takes over for McCarthy and doesn't give the job back type scenario? But Carson Wentz is the backup. I mean, you're not gonna like, oh man, do we need to go to Carson Wentz? That's not gonna be a conversation that you have in the season because we've seen that, chat. Ayo. And the Chiefs have been known to keep a backup around for a couple years, and obviously they did not decide to extend the Carson Wentz tenure. Maybe he didn't want. Maybe he thinks there's more opportunity in Minnesota. Wants to play with Jefferson and Addison just in practice. He's like, well, at least I'll throw Jefferson and Addison in practice, and that'll be fun. And they have Thielen back as well too. So again, they're at least leaning into the pass game. They've made an attempt to go get more weapons there, and at least try to continue to bulk up. So Kyler at 25-1. Honestly, I feel more confident in just taking shots on the interception guys than the who's going to lead the league as well. Because I think at the end of the day, we still trust the top quarterbacks to be the number one impact guys. And even if Daniels doesn't lead the league in, oh, chat, the bobble results in an interception. And who's this number 4 guy for Miami? Because he's the one that caused the fumble that the quarterback picked up for Notre Dame. So Carr picked up the fumble, and then they were able to score on that possession. But this one was a crazy. Oh, this is Bain, chat. Oh, this I remember looking this guy up in the offseason as well too, because that's a crazy name. I mean, Bain, chat. We could get him in a mask, maybe some edits when he gets drafted in the mask, off of the offensive player's hands, off of the defensive player's hands. Finally goes to Bain. Hey, yo, Chad, almost a great play by number 0, diving up there and getting that pass as well. And then Bain with the athleticism to turn the corner and make yards after the catch as well, too, Chad. He turned into a running back there for a second and tied it. Like, that was legitimately, like, the way he was able to haul that in and then, again, turn the corner and start turning upfield was, like, legitimate ball carrier type stuff. So Bain moving up draft boards. Do we have to check where they have him, where Tankathon has him going into the season? Was it first round hype or was it sleeper type stuff? He is 12. So Ruben Bain, chat, if the quarterback class is not there, we're going to take Drew Aller over Ruben Bain. Ruben Bain to the Seahawks. He would be fun if the Rams just went with like the New York Giants method to just continue just completely go all in on the offensive line, and now you have Jared Verse and Bain and Byron Young and Fisk. Imagine having Bain and Fisk at the best comic book defensive line. Hey, yo, we only draft defensive linemen whose names are similar to comic book villains, but also comic book villains with cool movie portrayals and underrated movie portrayals. Like Bain, I think, is popular, but doesn't get the respect of a great villain portrayal. And I think Wilson Fisk, Vincent D'Onofrio gets the respect, but is not as popular and a little more underground. So if they're able to have, do we want that to happen now just for the fact of that duo being together? And the Bleacher Report graphics would be crazy of Bane and Fisk together. I don't know if you can have a Marvel DC crossover in that type of way, but at least for the Bleacher Report graphic, it might work. So shout out Ruben Bain is he the number 1 edge on the board right now? Or is there another guy? So, TJ Parker out of Clemson is a top 3 pick on the board. So a little bit of a 2 years ago draft where Latu was the first pick off of the board and he was in that top 15 range. But you do have TJ Parker right now carrying the way for the top ends. And right now as well, too, you got a bunch of quarterbacks up. Oh, and Downs, Chad. You got Downs, Caleb Downs, as the number 2 guy, I guess defensive overall. So the edge guys, there is, I guess, a little bit of a tier early on, but you do have a couple of defensive options, at least at the top of the draft. So Miami with a field goal and a chance to make it a 10.2 score game, 38 yards, Chat. Oh, he got it. Okay. Easy enough. Right down the middle. So at least Miami's special teams in that 30, close in, there maybe is a consistency with their special teams as well too. And again, they're going to have the legends on the sideline all year if this team is back in a major way. So Carson Beck rallying the troops, chat. Michael Irvin and Ray Lewis are going to be champion Carson Beck this year, but also, again, Ruben Bain maybe next up in the lineage of great Miami guys as well. But they also had, the Jalen Phillips over the last couple of years. They've had some draft guys, even if the team has not necessarily been winning bowl games and championships in that type of way. Again, the team, of course, has been transforming to the point where it is a contending team now as well. And I guess because of you have the offensive tackle also going in the top 10. But yeah, 2 Miami guys as top 10 prospects earlier on in the season is something that maybe can help power them through as well. But yeah, speaking of McCarthy for interceptions, hopefully it doesn't happen. But 16-1 is not bad. And to be honest, him in this range with like May and Goff is a little, maybe that actually gives me confidence. Maybe FanDuel has some respect for him. It maybe thinks that he can do well. Tua at 30-1, that's just health, Chad. Honestly, Tua maybe not playing enough games, and he is good stats when he plays, so I could see that. Daniel Jones at 25-1. Like, the Colts kind of already proved that they are not necessarily probably going to be thinking about having Richardson play at quarterback this year. So I don't know if I think we'll see multiple quarterbacks. I don't know if it will be Richardson, but if we're just, hey, Daniel Jones is the guy and we're going for the draft, then 25-1's not bad as well. But Rodgers at 50-1. Can we bet the Rodgers over the pass yards and over the interceptions? Maybe we could. What was he at? 28 touchdowns, 11 picks, 12 picks. Okay, so he is kind of he might not go crazy, but if it just really goes disastrous, Aaron Rodgers 3,500 yards and 20 picks, maybe. I don't know if we can parlay those together. Flacco at 50-1, he would just get benched for Shador. And Lamar, Herbert, Hurts, there is a safety there, but a Herbert's just weird market correction season. 60-1's just like a fun swing, I guess, if you wanted to take it. But I think that he's kind of safe for that. And there is a lot of guys in this 25-1 range, but Caleb Williams is not a bad bet either. I know he's a bit of a sway. The variance definitely seems like it's there for his season. But receptions. He's gonna, I guess, moral of the story though, throw a lot of passes. So let's see what his over is for this season. Because if he's over 3,500, 3,575 and -114, not great odds. I maybe would stay away from that. I guess he could be in that 3,400 range if it's kind of mid as well. But Ginty to lead the league in running here. Wait, we were looking at player milestones season leaders for the passing stuff. Let's see if we can get some rushing stats here. Player rushing yards. Barkley, Henry, Taylor, Bijan, Gibbs, McCaffrey. Ginty is 18-1. Achane is 14-1, and Bucky Irving is 16-1. So that's definitely a bet on the Tampa Bay offense as well too. And to be honest, maybe we need to think about Tampa Bay as more of a sleeper team because they do have, again, a balance and a veteranness there for their roster. I guess the coaching turnover would be the thing to look at. So who checks all the boxes, Chad? Who's running it back but doesn't have the coaching turnover and still can maybe have some guys trending upward as well too? Because again, the Rams, it's like they have this big Stafford question mark going into the season that maybe he plays well in the regular season, but then can he hold up in the playoffs? And what happens if they have to go to Garoppolo? And the defense definitely plays well, but again, what's the offense going to look like? And Nakua is definitely still that A-plus reliable receiver as well. But Ginty to lead the league in rushing is about as confident of a bet that we've made tonight. So to be honest, I know we've workshopped a lot of bets, and this is how it goes. You got to look at your options for sure. But I do think that AFC South order of Texans, Titans, Jags, Colts is really interesting, or that double maybe bet of them Colts, Jags, that 3-4 swap. And then this bet right here, Ginty to lead the league in rush, is not bad. Because, just look at the guys directly above him. Again, Irvin, Achane, and McCaffrey in the double-digit range. Like, McCaffrey and Achane have immediate health question marks, where as much as we would want them to play all year, I don't know if we'd bet that to happen. And Bucky Irving does have the young legs to maybe rely on as well. But again, with Baker and some of the passing stuff, I don't know if he's going to lead the league in rushing. He could be in 1,000, like Bucky Irving, the rushing over would be really interesting. Him 1,000 yard mark for sure. But him in like the 1,500 rush yard mark, again, all purpose yards as well for sure. 13 to 1,500 rush yards, all purpose yards for a really great season from him. But GT to actually get to maybe the 1,500 yard mark, just straight up rushing, or that 1,300 yard mark. I don't know what we really need to get to these days, but that is something I could see happening. Yeah, Bijan at plus 850, Saquon, Henry, and Taylor are all just, they've kind of been at the top for a while, so I don't know if it's time for some fresh blood. Gibbs at plus 950 would be another obvious one as well, too. But G&T at 18-1 is not bad. Josh Jacobs, 19-1. Kyron, and then you go Kyron Williams, Chase Brown, Shua Hubbard, David Montgomery, James Cook, Tony Pollard. So, of course, there's not a lot of options as well, just in terms of the top. So this seems like money in the bank, chat. G&T at 18-1, and then rushing touchdowns as well. He's in a similar range. I could see Bowers stealing some of those touchdowns. Maybe Carroll gets feisty with the running back room. I don't know. 30-1. Whoa. Maybe it's just their offense as well, too. Like if the Falcons' offense is more dynamic and they're checking it down to Bijan in the red zone, Andy's running it, then maybe Bijan getting 20 touchdowns is more realistic. But Bijan as well could have, I guess he's not maybe, him and Ginty could be similar receiving level threats. I guess Gibbs is the one that definitely could add the receiving touchdowns on top of his production. But Ginty, again, we're banking on him for fantasy, so I guess betting on that would make sense as well, too. And it seems like there's good value both ways, chat. Betting and potential fantasy draft stuff, too. The receivers can maybe be a little bit more random than some of the other stuff. Chase does seem like a pretty safe bet, but I guess let's just see how often a guy leads the league in receiving in back-to-back years. Because, again, the one guy in the high-powered offense just having a crazy season does seem like that is the spot where it can happen. And you can have a random running back from time to time as well, too. But definitely seems like there's more of a definite name guy at the number one spot year to year. Though, you're like a Devontae Freeman type year every now and then, chat. I'm just not paying attention. Where's receiving yards leader year to year? So you've got each of the last couple of years. I mean, just for active guys as well, too, going back to Julio, Michael Thomas, Diggs, Kupp, Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, and Chase. So each of the last 3 seasons, Jefferson, Hill, Chase, even Kupp off of the 2021 season, all those guys, each of the last 4 years, would have been easy to project them to lead the league in receiving yards again. Obviously, Kupp had such a historic season that there was going to be some regression at that spot. But if he was back to 1,700 yards, that wouldn't have been shocking. So that does seem to be the threshold. We've had Diggs in 2020 at 1,500 yards, but Michael Thomas at 1,700 the year before that, and Julio, again in 2018, at 1,600 the year before that. So outside of that one season, everybody's gotten to that mark, and even mostly 1,800 yards as well has been even closer. So you got Brown, Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, Josh Gordon, Calvin Johnson, of course, I guess, 2011, 2012, back-to-back. Andre Johnson, 08-09, back-to-back. And then Jerry Rice 3 years in a row in the 90s, and then Jerry Rice again, 89-90, back-to-back. So, again, you do have stretches where guys don't lead the league twice. So are we due? Is this like Jamar Chase? I guess if he does get back-to-back receiving titles, that does put him in this historic category. And if it was, I guess maybe Andre Johnson opens it up a little bit. Raymond Berry in the mix as well. Lance Allworth, I guess, not quite getting there the same way. Largent, no. Jenkins, no. So Raymond Berry, Jerry Rice twice, Andre Johnson, and Calvin Johnson are the only guys to do it. So I guess it's historically unlikely that Jamar Chase leads the league in receiving yards 2 years in a row. Again, if you're thinking Stroud, I guess Nico Collins would be the obvious case, and them just being a crazy stats dynamic duo this year would not necessarily be surprising at all. CeeDee Lamb in that Cowboys offense. Again, we just have uncertainty with what Stafford's going to be like. So I would really like Nakua just from a usage standpoint. If Stafford is healthy, Nakua at 12-1 is not a bad bet. Again, Stafford could even throw some picks, and still Nakua could have a lot of receiving yards. Brian Thomas, of course, has Travis Hunter now, so we just don't know what the balance is going to be. Like, A.J. Brown has been a guy that's consistently at the top every year, but has just never quite got the receiving title, and maybe having a balanced offense is a little bit a part of that as well. So London at 13-1 is not bad. You know, Amon-Ra 25-1. Honestly, McConkey at 30-1 is not bad either, because then you go Bowers, Evans, like Garrett Wilson on the Jets. I don't know if Fields can have a guy lead the league in receiving yards with him at the quarterback spot. Waddle, Smith, and Jigba, T. It's like maybe Harrison at 45-1 is the best long shot bet, honestly. Jamison Williams, we start getting into some of the number 2 options. And some of these guys, again, maybe are in for breakout seasons, but I don't know if they could actually lead the league. So Harrison could. He could definitely put up, again, 1,700 year 2. Maybe that's year 3, but his odds wouldn't be as good if he was, of course, projected a little bit closer. So I honestly would maybe trust him over McConkey, and I know McConkey probably had a better rookie season, and Herbert is in a better spot. So we got, Herbert probably a little bit better, of a more consistent quarterback anyways, than McConkey. So I would go, I guess, Nakua, Lad McConkey at 30-1, and then Marvin Harrison Jr. at 45-1 as the random options for receiving yards. But of course, Nico Collins 10-1 is very tempting as well too. So double check that McCarthy over, chat. Hey yo, see if he is. Oh, we did. It was that 35.75. That's right. Okay, so he was in that 3,500 yard range. So that's a decent season. And if they're not thinking interceptions, what's Minnesota's win total? I guess we should check that. Are they thinking that they are going to be a double-digit win team with the defense and the offense that he is surrounded by? And like we're saying, one of the probably better coaching staffs at this point. So 9.5, 10.5, over under 10.5, 11.5. Wait a second. We don't just have like a team win totals option on here, because I don't know if they have like what their over under is actually listed at 8. I guess they don't have 8 listed here. It just goes 7.5 to 8.5. What are we, like, inside man? Trying to figure out which post office box is not listed. Oh, Jeremiah Love, 3rd and 21. Did he pick that up, or did he get back? Oh, that's just the line of scrimmage. Okay, so it's 4th down. Notre Dame's going to have to punt here. Hey, yo, down 10, 6 minutes. It's not looking good, chat. So, I guess I don't know if we can confirm what the Minnesota over-under is for the season, because they don't have 9. I guess they don't have 8, 7, 8, 6, 9. It just, I guess, goes on the half, of course, for the listing. But just in terms of what the team's basic regular season over-unders are, I don't know. So 10-plus wins, are they even odds? It's going to be close. Plus 135 for 10 wins. So they're sitting right about 9.5, right on the edge of the playoff. So they're giving McCarthy some benefit of the doubt. I think they're not necessarily, trending backwards. And I think some of the betting stuff for them being, completely out of the mix. And I'm buying stock, chat, because, again, I'm buying stock in McConnell continuing to be one of those guys. I mean, we have seen it with multiple quarterbacks. He was able to, help Kirk Cousins produce. He, of course, gave Sam Darnold the best season of his career. And I don't know why McCarthy would be, of course, I don't know why I would think McCarthy would be worse than Sam Darnold. Chat, Ayo, of course, we're going to be biased. But it is. Oh, wait, did they get a field goal there? So it does cut it to a touchdown game. Okay, 5 minutes left. We're in range, chat. We are on the clock for clutch competitive football here with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. So here we go, chat. Big game alert, new game, or I guess big game alert, good game alert, Big play Jim alert. Hey, yo, we need a Tony Romo drop for moments like this. Ooh, returner. He gets loose a little bit. Pause. Up to about the 33. So, turn it a little bit of a momentum boost on the kickoff is always welcomed for sure. Time for the Carson Beck breakdown from the broadcast. And, again, not the most complicated stuff, but he's staying patient in the pocket. We've known that he has a certain degree of toughness, and again, there is a mental confidence that he can tap into there. So there's just, a quick step to the AO chat. Beautiful throw in that touchdown as well too. And again, even though the great snag, there is still an accuracy there with the placement of the defenders and being able to get it to the receiver. In some ways, maybe it would have been picked off if the receiver doesn't get that. But that still was, kind of nice taking the risk. And if you're going to take the risk, that's about as good of a throw that you can make. So I don't know if people would be excited to give him the Heisman, but he's 12 for 12 for 109 yards, and I guess his last 12 passes. He's gone 12 for 12 over his last couple drives with 109 yards, and was still not terrible to start this game as well. So his name is going to be up there for sure. Mighty impressed, except for that throw right there. Definitely didn't quite get enough on that. Is there a flag? No flag? Okay, the audience cheered like there was there for a second, or maybe they were wanting one. Oh, chat, on the ticker, they're saying TCU is favored at North Carolina tomorrow night. Again, I'm rooting for Bill Belichick at the end. I hope he has a good year. I don't know if we're necessarily saying that we hope he wins the national title. I guess there's only one team we hope that wins the national title, but we don't want this to be disastrous as well. And I guess, what would that mean for the entire childhood of football? I don't know if it takes away from the greatness of what we watched and the fact that he dominated all of our teams week to week, but it would just be a little bit interesting. Oh, chat, we almost had another great play. Carson Beck, the defender draped all over him, puts it up for the receiver to make a play, but just a little bit out of reach, and the receiver not quite able to one-hand snag this one in the same type of way. So Miami is going to punt, and Notre Dame has had some, chip away drives here. Nothing too crazy in terms of explosive plays, but they have been able to move the ball and at least put up some points in the last couple of drives. Again, at least a field goal in that last one. So they are within scoring range here, and he did get a hand on that, chat. So the gloves, I don't know, he should have got the gloves that the other receiver had. He may have been able to catch that one. And that one maybe have been non-dominant hand as well too. So a little bit tougher. Not, the killer punt game for Miami. I guess, not every college is going to be locked in that aspect, but still able to not necessarily be too costly in that aspect. But on that type of punt, you do have an opportunity to at least pin them deep if you can get the bounce on it, and maybe that one can kind of go out of bounds a little bit or die. You get that maybe inside the 15 as well, but still within a spot where you're going to have to move the ball a little bit. So Carr does have that interception, but again, I feel like for the most part, a lot of the stuff hasn't been his fault. It's been a little bit safe, but that was the bummer with the Arch Manning performance. As much as there was these other obstacles going against him, there was still opportunities that he was just not able to capitalize on. And some of the other guys have had, again, moments that have been a little bit out of their control, like that Carr pick. Can't really do anything about it. Finds a guy wide open here, chat. Is this a tight end? He's going to get inside the 10. Are they right at the 10? Maybe the 9. But 4:23 left in the fourth quarter, and now they're going to be in a spot tied up. So Marcus Freeman, chat, here we go. And like we're saying, we need guys to emerge as those named guys, because even Harbaugh left, and Harbaugh would have been, up there as the most regarded head coach in college football almost if he had been around this year. And I know, what would have the result, what would he have done last year with our roster? How does that affect his perception? But if he's going into this season with Bryce Underwood and his notoriety, then he is going to be just, that's just going to be a well-regarded, well-respected team. So again, Freeman has a little bit of a tenure now. as well too. I know he's still got, the future ahead of him as a younger head coach, but he's been there long enough that, again, we've seen him build the program, and if he's able to continue to establish dominance this year, then his name obviously has to just go right up there with the top guys, if it not already is. But here's Carr on the keeper, chat, once again. That has worked a couple times now for him in the goal line spot, and at 23-24, the extra point, they can tie it up. Here we go, chat. So this is where, if you're Miami, having Carson Beck and having that veteran play at quarterback does matter. And I don't know if he was. I know we looked at the transfer portal rankings with Salter, looking at the Colorado game that was on the other night. But he might have actually been the number one transfer portal quarterback. And again, I don't think that they were getting respected for having that type of certainty there in the national limelight. So they haven't necessarily, I guess, they were making him move around a little bit there, and they definitely countered the pass rush with a great play call on that run. But the line has definitely slowed down a little bit in the fourth quarter stretch here. Is Bain off the field? Is that why? Oh no, Bain's on the right side, and they just run away from him, not quite able to get up and make a play. He's pass rushing, so he's going around the edge. If he, of course, reads that and stunts middle, then it is what it is. But able to, again, perfectly counter what goes on. So I forget who they said was the Notre Dame offensive coordinator, but I think it was another NFL guy, maybe type guy as well too. So we could, I guess, look that up here. Wait a second. We still got FanDuel on in the background. Let's get the game going, chat. Time to lock in. 3:21 left. And I know our volume levels have definitely, I think, raised to maybe complaint worthy. I don't know. But also our computer, I'm still looking at it. It's still in Central Time. And obviously, in real time, we're in West Coast time. So I keep looking at it thinking like, oh man, are people starting to go to sleep? Are we going to wake people up? But it's like, no, I think people are still chilling. We can go through the rest of this live stream and maybe not be a major inconvenience to anybody, unless we decide to see if there's like US Open still on, and then just see if we can watch sports all night, of course. But 3:21, Miami with a chance to, again, take the lead, but also really bleed the clock here as well too. They are, again, both these teams a little more methodical, even though Miami has hit some big plays. 315 total yards for Notre Dame, almost 300 for Miami at this point. So again, pretty well played, good grinded out game, and some good stuff here week one, where I think maybe trending right direction. Their baseline starting point after week one is in a good spot as well. Like, I don't know if we're going to get to the end of the season and feel better about Carson Beck as like a national championship guy versus Arch Manning. But again, week one, I guess a lot of guys, of course, outplayed him, but both of these guys have shown the ability to, hit the levels I think that Arch Manning has hit in college as well too. And I know we're really focusing on that as well, but that was the number one preseason team. That was the number one Heisman guy, and that was just a big narrative and a really, stark result from what the narratives were going into the regular season. So maybe that is, like we were saying, I don't know if everything recalibrated, but I feel like the certainty meter didn't quite jump up and get, established right away like maybe it can, and has happened over the last couple of years. But Beck unloads, Chad takes a deep shot, and they're gonna get the flag as the defender falls down and tackles the receiver. Hey yo, it is what it is. I don't know who that corner was on the edge there. Oh, was that gonna be offensive pass interference? What's gonna happen? Nope, they were giving him a high five, but I think that was just words of encouragement. So of course only 15 yards, but when they actually go to the deep shot, you kind of bail them out with the penalty there a little bit. We don't know if, Carson Beck has had good accuracy in this game, but we don't know how successful those plays actually would have been. And that did seem like it would have been a pretty accurate pass as well too. So that weirdly might have, worked out with the shorter play resulting from the penalty at that point. But, moving the ball a little bit, you're going to want to leave yourself some time to potentially I guess, you're not going to want to let them score here, but holding them to a field goal, if they burn some clock as well too, like it's tied. So again, any type of score, they take the lead, and that penalty sets you up for basically, 1 to 2 plays. You're in field goal range here and have a safety. So they continue to be aggressive, chat. They go right back at that same corner, and this time he makes a play. It was over the middle of the field, so he was able to, fight back toward the receiver and swat it away versus having to run stride for stride with him. But that was textbook defense that time. Perfect arrival, perfect job of getting in front, perfect sort of minimal amount of contact that time. So it really was just him falling down there as well too. Is that the guy that was high up on the draft boards, Farley, if I remember his name right, or something along those lines? So I don't know. He's moving up draft boards right now. A couple of good plays, even if that penalty was costly. You can see the talent, of course, on that last coverage spot. Run game continues to be minimally effective on that play as well. So 2-minute warning, chat. Third down. So this is a third down that is a little bit out of field goal range, but at 3rd and 2, if you don't take a sack, you're gonna be in go for it range on 4th down, because you're not gonna punt it. I guess if you punt it back, you're gonna give them much more difficult field position, because if you turn it over now, now you're in the other end of it, going for a field goal with even less time is going to be more difficult for Miami. But analytically, you would be in at least it would be an option on the table for you at 4th and 2. So again, and Marcus Freeman does, or I guess, sorry, Miami, they do. Marcus Freeman does like to play the analytics. I don't know if Miami is as analytical with their decision making. I guess we'll find out here if they aren't able to pick up the first on the 3rd down attempt. But I imagine, do you just keep running it? Carson Beck is kind of your guy. It may be a short pass where you get it out quick and don't necessarily give the defense an opportunity to tackle for a loss behind the line of scrimmage as well too. But do you just go 2 runs and just say screw it? That would feel like copping out, Chad. That'd feel like copping out, especially with the way, like we're saying, that Beck has played today. So I feel like they're going to get aggressive here. And again, they've been aggressive. Shout out for the mentality, for the attacking, and the not being scared. And maybe that is something else as well too in a big moment, just the not scared play calling that they've had. I don't know if we saw Texas and Ohio State get a little into we have to get conservative with our options, but it did seem like at some point there was like, okay, we just got to get something for Arch to get momentum, and then plays were in just passes were missed. Might have been a drop there at some point as well too. Again, there definitely was on the Ohio State side of things, but this is where you would bring in the veteran quarterback to make the big plays at the end of the game. So if you're going to need him at the end of the season to make big plays against good teams, well, too, like this, maybe you just start it off early. And again, he would be up there with the reliability as well too, because of that experience in those big games. So they have been, let's see here, from a running standpoint, as a team, about 2 yards a carry, 3 yards a carry, but maybe some sack stuff is bringing that total down a little bit, because both of the running backs are 4 yards a pop right now, and about 100 yards combined. So 26 for a little over 100 is not bad. Fletcher was able to get a 15-yarder earlier, so I wouldn't necessarily mind 2 maybe different types of runs to Fletcher at this point. Love still sitting at 10 for 33. So maybe it was, again, just kind of overall some of the skill guys in the Heisman contention that we thought were going to be interesting have kind of had some down stats games. I guess we could see here, we were looking at the quarterback leaders earlier, but for the rest of the, pay respect to the rest of the game as well too, and see what else happened. Jadon Peterson, 18 tackles. Hey, yo, so Kansas State, we got a passing leader and a tackling leader. Maybe Kansas State's a sleeper team. And a sack leader as well, but I guess they've also had the extra game in the mix. Bradley from UNLV,
with 256 yards to start the season. That's got to be 2 games shout out. I mean, if it isn't, then, you know, Ballard, just take him right now. 12 for 256 and a touchdown. This might have been, oh, this is 2 games, but he did go 6 for 125 against Sam Houston. So he probably is going to be a watch list guy that people are going to be tracking if his numbers continue to do this. A little, maybe kind of Tet McMillan. I know Tet McMillan, even on Arizona, is a little bit, bigger of a school than UNLV. Shout out. But kind of a, receiver without the college quarterback situation, still able to get the big numbers. And we didn't get you know, combine measurables here for our guy, but I don't know if he's kind of a jump ball receiver in the same type of way. Okay, wait a second. Miami did get the first down, so they are moving now. A minute 18 left. Notre Dame's going to start using their timeouts. 3 timeouts. You basically got to hold them to a field goal here and just try to get the ball back to keep your hopes alive. And UNLV does have a guy with Armarius Brown, 2 interceptions, 2 sacks. So is he a safety, a linebacker? What do we got here? A safety. UNLV chat. Are they going to have some draft guys that we're going to have to keep an eye on? At least the extra game is helping benefit their notoriety at this point. You got a Tulsa guy at 3 sacks and another, we did say that Kansas guy as well too. Oklahoma State. I guess, 2 Kansas guys. Cody Stufflebean? Whoa. And Toby Osu Tsunami? Osu Tsunami? The Tsunami? Toby the Tsunami? Is kind of a cool nickname if he is able to keep the production up. But 2nd and 4, a minute 19, they've officially crossed over the field goal range mark, so they're in scoring territory. The Notre Dame defensive line stops the run, quick timeout. So shout out to Freeman for at least being on his timeouts. It does seem like even if the coaches call him these days, sometimes it takes a while for them to make that decision. So you make the stop here, you call the timeout, you could potentially get it back with 50-some seconds left in decent enough field goal range to have a pretty easy drive for a tying field goal. If you hold them for a field goal here, at least they're attempting. And like we're saying, it looks like their special teams is kind of decent, but not a guarantee if you're able to keep them right on the edge of that target line. So none of the, again, high name value week 1 Heisman hyped guys had the major stats from the skill spot. Let's see if are we still on college football? It says we're on college football, but we got the NFL stuff actually pulled up here. Let's see who is actually locked into that mix. So now it's all quarterbacks. Nussmeier, Sellers, Stockton, Beck, Klubnik, Mater from Oklahoma, Arnold. So Smith has moved to 16-1 at this point. Sayin, I guess, quarterback as well too. Castellanos. Devon Dampier, is that Utah's quarterback? Jennings, I think, is SMU's quarterbacks. Simmons and Simpson. We literally have Simpson over Ryan Williams at this point still. 35-1 at 50-1. Jeremiah Love at 50-1 is still up there for at least the top non-skill guys. And again, it is more difficult as well. But the running backs, you could definitely see it. Gio Lopez, the North Carolina quarterback, is going to be somebody that, outside of Bill Belichick, I am interested to see how he performs as well, too, because I don't know if Bill Belichick still has a little bit of magic left in him, chat. Hopefully Hudson hasn't taken the last of it, but if he does, then maybe this is like an old school Bill Belichick call, like there was like a couple of more maybe notable recruits on that team, but this guy transferred, kind of worked his way up, maybe an underdog story, maybe Bill Belichick, making a good coaching move as well. So we'll see how that plays out. Miami, the field goal's up. Oh, chat. It hooks in from the right side. It looked like it was going to curve out there for a second, but it does just sneak in from 48 yards. So shout out Davis being consistent on the kicking game tonight a couple of times when they've needed him. But if Miami just takes the fair catch here, or even, again, a normal return, you're still going to have about a minute 55 to 55 seconds left for this final drive. Again, only needing a field goal to tie, so very much alive for Notre Dame. CJ Carr has shown his ability to extend his plays with the mobility. So I imagine with the way the quarterback sneak has been successful in the red zone, that you would go to that and at least, or that they will go to that and at least try it here on this drive, because maybe it's not a scoring play, obviously, but with the way the clock stops, you could see yourself getting 12 yards on that if that's an early play call that catches them off guard. Again, Love has maybe not been effective, but do you go with like a screen and just try to get him out in the open and have him creating plays at some point? Because him in free space is, just with the opportunity to create something is maybe a good reliance. It's about as reliable as anything as you can come up with on offense at this point. So do they commit to the run it back, chat? The kicking game has, goes right out the back of the end zone. Okay. Perfect kick, I guess, from the Miami guy to not give him an opportunity. So here we go, chat. CJ Carr, and, again, Manning, it's just the comparison point of the day, chat. It is what it is. And the comparison point of the season, we're an Arch Manning pod for this year. But the toughness of his environment, like Austin Carr, CJ Carr has a lot of the same. Is it Austin Carr or is it CJ Carr? I don't remember. But he has a lot of the same similar environmental challenges. Like he's on the road, Miami coaching staff, defensive talent. It's all pretty similarly there. And he's definitely competed a little bit more and now has an opportunity to clutch up and make a game-winning drive as well, too. So shotgun, quick snap. Oh, Chet. Whoa. Fires it over the middle right off of the was that a tight end? Right off of the tight end's hands. Almost another one of those receiver fault type picks as well. And they just said that was a little high. Like, it's high in the sense that it was like at his helmet instead of at his chest. That's still in the, I would say, easy catch range for a guy of that caliber of receiver for sure. So another easy pass right back to him, chat. The screen, the yards after the catch. He's able to get a good 14, 15 yards. They don't have any timeouts to work with yet, but if they keep getting first downs, then of course you are able to set yourself up for spiking it as well too. But just needing a field goal, they're gonna run a play here. He stays in the shotgun. The ends swarm. He makes a weird shuffle. Do they call that incomplete? Hey, that's kind of a generous incomplete pass. I don't know if that's intentional grounding or not. Is there any receivers in the area? He's still in the pocket. And is that Bain? Oh, chat, right off the edge. Doesn't even... And the other guy as well, too, number 3, he was honestly there before Bain. Bain just with an equal, level rush. Just both of them winning individually on their matchups. Number 3, he got a nice under the pad there. Bain just had the guy totally lost, though. Honestly, I was driving. And maybe it was just the offensive tackle on Bain's side just doing a less job of getting in position as well, too. Oh, chat, they do rule it intentional grounding. Oh, killer for Notre Dame. Of course, the loss of down, but the backup of the yardage and the clock is going to start as well, too. So they're already running on 36 seconds, and it's going to be second down. So that's where you kind of, if you have the first down opportunity, you almost have to just take the spike there because you can't spike it on second down, ideally, and then go into third and fourth down as your last two opportunities. If you spike it on first down, of course, now you are basically saying that you have, 3 downs like you normally would to pick up those 10 yards. Of course, you're not punting on your fourth down at that point. Your third down would be, in a sense, your final down, if that football math makes sense. But now, 2nd and 17, back at the 30, and once again, the Miami defensive line, which was impressive in the run all day, has stepped up on the last 2 plays of the pass rush here and have put this away for Miami. The clock's going to run out. Number 10 Miami, chat, is going to get the win. Do they get the snap off? Hey, speaking of Crimson Tide, did they get to fire one last torpedo? No, I don't think it's going to happen. Miami's going to take the win, chat. It is what it is. Final. For once, we're actually ahead of the ESPN stream. I don't know if the benefits of being on vacation, chat. Normally, we're behind. If you go check the tapes, it is what it is. Just a little inside information for the new ones checking in. But if we can find the pre-game odds and see if this is, I guess, technically an upset. I think maybe Notre Dame was favored by 2 or 3.5. So it was pretty close. And I guess them being favored on the road as well, too, is impressive. So, yeah, Notre Dame 2.5 on the road. I guess ending plus 1,400 on the money line. We don't have what it closes at. Anyways. Oh, wait, was that the... Oh, go 5.5? Or was that the live spread? I don't know. But so, yeah, I guess closed at minus 2.5. 50 on the over-under, so we did go over. Hey, yo, shout out there. But, yeah, Miami definitely impressed in a national title sense tonight. And Notre Dame fought as well, too. They are definitely still in the mix. And Freeman definitely proved that. And Carr is a young quarterback. Again, he did not play like a disastrous game. A couple of those mistakes were really not his fault as well, even though at the end it was a little overwhelming there with the defensive line, and then ultimately that penalty was tough. He had a couple of moments where him maybe throwing it away or getting into a spot, you never know if you're going to throw it away, but I don't know if you just take the sack at that spot. You're kind of losing out if the pressure obviously has got to you with the clock ticking down like that. But shout out Miami. Shout out to a great first week of college football. And once again, of course, congratulations to Sam and Naya. And, of course, thank you for letting us be a part of the day. It was an awesome honor to be there and be in attendance. And, to be one of the ones, it's like, yeah, this is obviously for them going to be a day that's remembered for forever. So it's like, yeah, get invited to come spend that kind of day and be a part of that environment. It's obviously a great honor. So we are super, of course, excited that our friends are happy in life in this stage now, being joined in marriage like that. And obviously, like we said earlier, beautiful wedding, beautiful day, beautiful trip, beautiful Bay Area chat, just great vibes all the way around. It's going to be a bummer to leave. Again, leaving vacation mode, of course, but leaving the Bay it's a fun spot to be in, chat. We could definitely hang out here a little bit more, but yeah, we got to get back to work in Iowa. Hey, the Midwest chat, it is what it is. That's the home base for now. So we head back tomorrow. I guess we got to log off here. We got to pack. We got to get prepared for the flight home. But yeah, we'll hopefully be live Tuesday night. We've been able to keep on the trip. We were able to keep a live schedule, and then once we get back, we're going to be crazy. But because we were traveling, make no mistake, your boy's behind on a couple other projects that would have to be submitted on Tuesday. So we'll see if we're able to still get the live stream up and going, because if, of course, we don't go live Tuesday, we'll go live Wednesday. But I guess we will be live Thursday for the start of the NFL season, and then we will be live typically like we are Friday night as well, too. So we're not replacing a Friday live stream with a Thursday live stream. We'll do a Thursday, a Friday live stream. So maybe a 3-day Rem and Sam extravaganza, like a NFL opening week type ordeal. Do we just go like a 4 or 5 day weekend and just go record Saturday, record Sunday? I don't know if we just go full YouTube degenerate chat. Kai Sinet, it's going to be Kai Sinet versus the Rem and Sam pod live stream. We'll see what happens. But yeah, we got to head back, I guess, to Iowa. So we'll see you guys in a couple of days in the next live stream. Stay tuned to the YouTube. Stay tuned to the podcast feeds. And yeah, I guess, DM some Rem and Sam pod. Send Sam his congratulations, of course. It's exciting for them moving into this phase of life. And we cannot be more happy for him. So there we go, chat. Can we say congratulations one more time? I think so. So we'll end it on that note, and we will see you guys when we get back to the States, back to the Midwest. Hey, yo, we'll be back in a